Chapter 317. Who is stronger? Heikuei only felt that the sky was filled with dark clouds and darkness was about to engulf him. An endless sense of fear arose spontaneously. The rumor of bandits in the school had been spread like wildfire. Because of this, the male students lived in fear all day long. The female students even had to go to the toilet in groups before they dared to go out. This made everyone in the outer yard anxious. They were afraid that the bandits would suddenly appear and put them in the evil sack. Now, the bandits had surfaced. Heikuei beat up a teacher in the outer yard. It was a serious crime. A light punishment would be expulsion from the school. A heavy punishment would be abolishing his cultivation and demoting him to a servant in the school. From a high and mighty earth-rolled disciple to a servant that everyone trampled on, Heikuei absolutely could not accept this. In an instant, his future was completely destroyed. Senior Qin Hao, please be merciful. Quickly testify for me. I, Heikuei, am not an evil bandit. Have you forgotten that 4 days ago we went out to eat fried dough sticks and drink soy milk together? With a plop, Heikuei knelt down in front of Qin Hao on the stage and hit his head hard on the ground. This scene also made the eyes of all the disciples go numb. Oh my God! The insufferably arrogant Heikuei of the earth roll knelt down in front of someone, and the one who knelt was a student. Unbelievable! Eating soy milk and fried dough sticks with me? Haha! In this regard, Qin Hao shook his head and sneered. Don't you want to avenge Duziting? Who is Duziting? I don't know him. Heikuei trembled. Don't you want to take back the steel whip? Low-grade murder weapon is incomparably trash. It's my honor to give it to senior brother Qin Hao. The steel whip has long been thirsty for senior brother Qin Hao. It can't wait to fly into senior brother Qin Hao's hands. Only in your hands can it reflect the value of life. Don't you want to avenge Zhang Fei? Zhang Fei deserved it. He tried to provoke the great senior Qin Hao. He deserved to be robbed and lost his snake spear. What about Mount Ibaraki? Don't you want to give him your mysterious crystals? Qin Hao pointed to Mount Ibaraki. Bah, what is Mount Ibaraki? In my eyes, it was like a pile of dog shit. What qualifications did it have for me to show filial piety to it? My mysterious crystals are for you, senior brother Qin Hao. In my heart, senior apprentice brother Qin Hao is a dragon among men. The 9th division mark is unprecedented. Only you are qualified to be a core disciple. Vice Principal Ouyang is really blind. Yuan Huai is also a pig and a dog. He wanted to frame senior brother Qin Hao. He's guilty of the most heinous crimes. Especially this Mount Ibaraki. Hey, I'm talking to you. Why don't you quickly kneel in front of senior brother Qin Hao with me, call him ancestor, and beg senior brother Qin Hao to spare your life? I really admire you. You're only ranked 7th on the Earth leaderboard, but you dare to put on airs in front of senior brother Qin Hao. To tell you the truth, you can't even withstand a single finger from senior brother Qin Hao. Hurry up and get lost. In order to protect his identity as a disciple of Qiyang University, Heikuei was also shameless. He indiscriminately bombarded Qin Hao with flattery. In his words, backbone, dignity, and the courage of a man could all go to hell. As long as his cultivation wasn't crippled and he wasn't expelled from the school, Heikuei wouldn't hesitate to acknowledge Qin Hao as his godfather. Immediately, he began to talk non-stop again. He said that Qin Hao was a man of striking appearance, a girl's lover, and a man's idol. In the future, he would become the #1 person in Qiyang University. It was only a matter of time before he dominated the land of Western Liang. In comparison, Mount Ibaraki was like horse dung. This round of flattery made everyone's eyes pop out. No one could imagine that this came out of Heikuei's mouth. Mount Ibaraki, in particular, was so angry that his face turned green. Heikuei F*ck your ancestors. Mount Ibaraki resisted the urge to kill Hei-Kuei and let out an earth-shattering roar. Continue to howl. Other than howling all day, what else can you do? You chased after senior brother Qin Hao for half a month. You didn't hesitate to become a wolf dog under Yuan Huai's feet. You fantasized about killing senior brother Qin Hao all day long. You said that senior brother Qin Hao couldn't withstand a single blow. The one who couldn't withstand a single blow is you. I, Hei-Kuei, admire your courage to court death. Hei-Kuei gave the same words that Qin Hao had given to him to Mount Ibaraki. Mount Ibaraki couldn't take it anymore. He spat out a mouthful of blood in anger, scaring the members of the Red Daddy Society. Senior brother Qin Hao is satisfied with my performance. Quickly testify for me. After Hei-Kuei made Mount Ibaraki vomit blood, he kowtowed to Qin Hao again. All right, I'll testify for you. In fact, 4 days ago, Shui Han and I went out to buy pancake. When we came back, we happened to meet the robber who beat up Teacher Han. The robber was Hei-Kuei. Qin Hao smiled and pointed at Hei-Kuei, who was kowtowing below the stage. His eyes seemed to be saying, "Didn't you arrogantly say that you wanted me to avenge Teacher Han? Now I've done it." Boom. Hei-Kuei was struck by lightning. He was already so despicable, but Qin Hao still wouldn't let him go? Qin Hao, you and I can't live under the same sky. With a deafening roar, Hei-Kuei's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. He channeled his energy and flew toward the stage. At this moment, he didn't want to live anymore. He wanted to explode his dantian and die. Even if he died, he wanted to perish together with Qin Hao. Unfortunately, before Hei-Kuei could pounce, he was intercepted by a yellow-robed figure. Old Man Huang flew up and grabbed Hei-Kuei's neck. The power of the sage level crushed Hei-Kuei's energy and destroyed his cultivation. Old Man Huang raised his hand and threw the mud-like Hei-Kuei away. He said in a deep voice, "Where's the enforcement team? Throw him into the school's dungeon and wait for the dean's orders." He finally heaved a sigh of relief. As the supervisor of the school's superior area, he didn't supervise properly and allowed the robber to run rampant in the school. He caused Teacher Han to suffer such a great disaster. Fortunately, the robber was caught. Old Man Huang just had to wait for the dean's orders. Hei-Kuei was really bold. He could have beaten anyone, but he dared to beat up the old man of the school. One could imagine how miserable Hei-Kuei would be in the future. He would probably end up in a mental hospital like Teacher Han. This matter came to an end. Hei-Kuei was a robber hiding in the school. It really frightened the other disciples. Hei-Kuei was so dark. Who would be able to find him if he committed a crime in the night? He would be a disaster if he was left alive. This scourge was also arrested under Qin Hao's testimony. In an instant, the female disciples below the stage all showed expressions of gratitude to Qin Hao. At the same time, they shook their heads helplessly. After all, Qin Hao wouldn't be able to escape death. He would die at the hands of Mount Ibaraki, who was ranked 7th on the Earth leaderboard. "Qin Hao, do you know how bad my mood is right now?" As he spoke, Mount Ibaraki gritted his teeth and stepped off the stage. His eyes were bloodshot. He stood in front of Qin Hao and clenched his fists so tightly that they made cracking sounds. He was kind enough to give Hei-Kuei a chance to show off. In the end, he didn't manage to deal with Qin Hao. Instead, Hei-Kuei even bit Mount Ibaraki. Before he died, he still wanted to disgust Mount Ibaraki. There was no one else like Hei-Kuei. Cut the crap. Make your move. Qin Hao didn't need to say much. His hatred for Mount Ibaraki wasn't any less than his hatred for Hei-Kuei. Stop pretending. Don't think that you can be arrogant in front of me just because you defeated Hei-Kuei. The difference between the 9th and 7th on the Earth leaderboard isn't something you can imagine. Now, why don't you kneel down and beg me to give you a quick death? Mount Ibaraki roared and clenched his fists tightly at his waist. A turbulent aura spread out, and his blue essence chi shook the battle arena until it rumbled. His strength also started to increase rapidly. As expected, Mount Ibaraki's cultivation level directly jumped from a 5-star Essence Grandmaster to a beginner 6-star. Chapter 318. Translator. Nyoibo Studio Editor. Nyoibo Studio. The reappearance of Golden Finger. The rumor is true. Senior Brother Yen has broken through to a 6-star primary Grandmaster. His aura is too strong. That's nothing. Senior Brother Yen is best at his axe skills. The moment he holds the axe, you will know what a reincarnated demon god is. Senior Brother Yen has also been trained by the Vice President. I heard that his skills are ridiculously strong. How many heads does Qin Hao have left? Even if Elder Yun is here, he won't be able to change the outcome. Many disciples were shocked and started to discuss among themselves. Once on the battle stage, life and death would not be taken into account. This was the Academy's rule. Qin Hao wanted to keep his identity as a core disciple? Wishful thinking. This was especially true for the blue-clothed students below the stage. When they saw that the 100 mountains of rock's imposing manner was so strong, their faces revealed incomparable shock. His name was Li Tianba, and he was ranked 6th on the Earth board. He knew that Mount Ibaraki was going to challenge his 6th position in the Earth board ranking competition this year. Judging from Mount Ibaraki's combat strength, Li Tianba might lose. After all, Mount Ibaraki had been trained by the Vice President. If even Li Tianba wasn't a match for Mount Ibaraki, Qin Hao was nothing. Obviously, Li Tianba didn't care about Qin Hao at all. Sister. Nalan Li tugged at Naransu's clothes. She was extremely nervous, and wanted to ask Naransu to fight in place of Qin Hao. Otherwise, Qin Hao would be in danger. Don't worry about him. He asked for it, Naransu said with a straight face and a cold gaze. It wasn't that she didn't want to fight, but even if she did, she didn't have the confidence to defeat Mount Ibaraki. She was truly powerless. On the other hand, Yi Shuihan and Yun Yingchang stood calmly. They weren't worried at all and their eyes were filled with anticipation. Yi Shuihan understood Qin Hao's current strength very well. He had reached 7-star Yuan Zone. Qin Hao's 7-star Essence Sect was far from what an ordinary person could compare to. He wouldn't lose even if he faced a 9-star Essence Sect. It could be said that no one below the top 3 of the Outer Court Earth Roll was a match for Qin Hao. Mount Ibaraki was just a stepping stone for Boss's rise. As for Yuning Chang, she seemed to see the hot-blooded figure in the Four Nations martial arts tournament again. Qin Hao had unlimited potential. There was nothing he couldn't do. This was Yun Yingchang's instinctive confidence in Qin Hao. On the stage, Mount Ibaraki took 2 deep breaths and calmed his foul mood after being angered by hating. The Sumeru pouch at his waist flashed, and he took out a battle axe. Holding the battle axe in his hand, his aura surged once more. Xiang Qin Hao said coldly, "Let me tell you the truth. Today, I will dismember you in front of everyone on the arena. Only after you die will I become the Vice Principal's disciple. Only after you die will I have the face to go back and lick Senior Brother Huai's boot. If you have any last words, you'd better say them now because I will send you to hell with my battle axe. If you don't say them now, you won't have the chance anymore." Ha ha. Are you done with your nonsense? Qin Hao was expressionless as the primal qi in his body surged and increased. A ball of blue light flickered violently in front of the disciples and became more and more intense. This was the first time he had shown his cultivation base to everyone. 1-star primal ancestor, 2-star primal ancestor, 3-star primal ancestor, 4-star primal ancestor. Qin Hao's primal qi grew stronger and stronger as his aura expanded. Mount Ibaraki's expression changed drastically and became more and more distorted. Buzz. As the ball of primal qi spread, a flame-like blue light shot up into the sky from Qin Hao's head. Qin Hao's cultivation base had also stabilized at the peak of a 5-star primal ancestor. The scene in front of them made everyone's jaws drop. The shock in their hearts was even greater than Mount Ibaraki's aura just now. The peak of a 5-star primal ancestor. In just 10 days, he had gone from 1 star to 5-star. Was he even human? How terrifying! Elder Yun didn't misjudge him. This kid is extraordinary. Even Old Man didn't expect him to improve so quickly. No wonder he could become a Stage 9 core disciple in the Cruel Forest assessment. His talent is unparalleled. In the future, he will definitely become a man of Qiyang University who will stir up the winds and clouds of Xiliang. Sigh. Old Man Huang, the confused old man, and the archery instructor Xie Tsanghu shook their heads regretfully. No wonder He Kuei couldn't break Qin Hao's primal qi armor. He Kuei didn't lose unjustly. Qin Hao's true cultivation base had reached the peak of a 5-star primal ancestor. This was a huge surprise. Because of this, He Kuei fell even harder. No matter how strong Qin Hao was, he was definitely not Mount Ibaraki's match. It was all because Yuan Huai's teacher was the vice dean, Ouyang Hua. Ouyang Hua was arrogant and domineering. With him backing Yuan Huai, Qin Hao would never be able to make a name for himself. Today's situation would definitely kill Qin Hao. The unprecedented number of core disciples would also turn into a bubble forever. I didn't expect your cultivation base to reach 5-star primal ancestor. On the stage, Mount Ibaraki was extremely shocked. How long had it been? Only 10 days. Qin Hao had already reached a level that others couldn't reach even after a few years. Apart from being shocked, a strong sense of fear rose from the bottom of his heart. It turned into a huge hammer and hit Mount Ibaraki's heart hard. His gaze hardened, and he became even more determined to kill Qin Hao. This person couldn't be left alive. You want to kill me so that you can prove yourself in front of Yuan Huai. Come on. Qin Hao smiled, stretched out his hand, and hooked his finger at Mount Ibaraki. This action was very contemptuous, and the anger that Mount Ibaraki had just suppressed instantly rushed to the top of his head. Little bastard, with a roar, Mount Ibaraki performed the technique that he was proud of, hoping to kill Qin Hao with one blow. He swung his battle axe, and the blade of the axe, which was wrapped in vitality, chopped down at Qin Hao with a force that seemed to split the sky. In an instant, a thick blue blade of light pierced through the air from the head of the axe, and it was unstoppable. The people below the stage couldn't help but cover their mouth. If this blade of light landed, wouldn't it cut him in half? Brother Hao! Tears flowed out of Nalan Li's eyes, and she was about to rush forward to save Qin Hao. As soon as she moved, Naransa grabbed her arm tightly and held her in place. At this time, Mount Ibaraki's axe also mercilessly chopped down in front of Qin Hao. Break! Qin Hao raised his hand and pointed. Swoosh! A sharp ray of light burst out from his fingertip, and with a touch of blue light, it collided with the incoming axe of light. Boom! 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 The two collided, and the axe of light shattered. However, the finger ray did not slow down, and the tyrannical blow penetrated Mount Ibaraki's shoulder. Accompanied by a miserable cry, Mount Ibaraki's severed arm flew into the air after He Kuei, and blood splattered all over the arena. Golden Finger! Yuning Cheng's beautiful eyes lit up, and she immediately recognized this set of finger technique. In the Four Nations martial arts tournament, this finger technique had defeated Long Outian's Lingxi finger, and also took his life. This was Qin Hao's unique technique. Whoosh! A commotion broke out below the stage, and like a plague, it instantly swept through the entire arena, shocking the thousands of disciples who came to watch the battle. Mount Ibaraki's axe did not chop Qin Hao to death. Instead, its arm was pierced by Qin Hao's finger ray, and its arm was even chopped off. Are our eyes blind? Mount Ibaraki was a 6-star origin sect. Qin Hao's ability was only 5-star. He actually crippled the 7th on the Earth leaderboard. Chapter 319. Translator, Nyoibo Studio Editor. Nyoibo Studio 3 Axes of Gold Bite. You actually dared to cripple my arm? In the arena, Mount Ibaraki stared blankly at the broken limb at his feet. He had forgotten about the pain, and there was only confusion and shock in his heart. He was no match for Qin Hao? Qin Hao did not respond at all. His calm gaze seemed to be saying, "You're crazy. You want to kill me, but I'm not allowed to hurt you? I want you dead." After a brief moment of shock, Mount Ibaraki roared in anger. Before coming, he had made a vow in front of Oyenghua that he would make Qin Hao's blood splatter on the arena. He had never thought that the person who would be splattering blood on the arena would be him. As someone ranked 7th on the Earth leaderboard, he couldn't even block a single finger from Qin Hao. What kind of humiliation was that? He swung his arm, and the battle axe in his hand slashed toward Qin Hao's face. At the same time, Mount Ibaraki clenched his fist and got into a stable stance. The elemental energy in his body rose rapidly, and the blue elemental energy in his left fist grew stronger and stronger. Kinetic light wave. With a roar, Mount Ibaraki punched forward with his left fist. A ferocious and thick beam of light shot out from his fist like an evil dragon, charging toward Qin Hao with an unstoppable force. The corners of Yan Baishan's mouth curled up. With this move, Qin Hao was dead for sure. This was a high-grade mystic elemental skill that the vice president had personally taught him. It was extremely mysterious. If Qin Hao did not die, Mount Ibaraki would be willing to kneel down and call him father. Instantly, screams could be heard from below the arena. Those with discerning eyes could tell that the power of the kinetic light wave was enough to annihilate a peak 6-star elementalist. This was definitely the result of the vice president's teachings on Mount Ibaraki. Qin Hao was merely a 5-star elementalist. There was only one outcome: escape. Or die. Break again. Unexpectedly, not only did Qin Hao not run away, he stretched out his hand and caught the flying axe firmly in his hand. At this moment, a dazzling brilliance spread from his palm to the entire battle axe, covering it with a layer of blue radiance. Similarly, he swung his heavy axe down. Whoosh! The axe beam, supported by Qin Hao's dragon vortex technique, tore through the air and tore the flying dragon into two. Blood splattered everywhere as the axe beam slashed across the body of the Mount Ibaraki, taking away another arm. Trying to compete with me in martial arts? Your brain must have been hit by a donkey. He thought to himself in disdain. Was this a high-grade profound level yuan skill taught by Oyenghua? I'm sorry, but a casual chop of my axe is a high-grade earth-class cultivation technique. The axe technique Qin Hao used was called gold-biting 3 axes. As the name implied, there were actually only 3 moves, but each move could destroy an army of 10,000 miles and kill the enemy without leaving a trace. Mount Ibaraki's realm was not as high as Qin Hao's, and his cultivation method was also not as good as Qin Hao's. Chopping off both his arms was expected. What was unexpected was that Yan Baishan had actually tossed over his own weapon. This axe was not bad and could be used to refine it. Qin Hao had benefited from it. My arm, it's broken again. Mount Ibaraki seemed to be afraid that others would not see his arm fall off as he roared. Both his shoulders were severed, and his bare body swayed on the stage. His eyes were filled with intense fear. He had volunteered to run out and kill Qin Hao for Yuan Huai. In the end, he was the one who was being abused. At this moment, he no longer dared to dream of becoming Ouyanghua's disciple or becoming Yuan Huai's lackey. He no longer dared to dream of living a good life in the future. This was because Qin Hao raised the axe in his hand again, and a scalp-numbing aura of death rushed towards him. The fear in Mount Ibaraki's heart had reached an extreme. Plop! He knelt down. In the face of death, he was a shameless coward. Senior Qin Hao, please spare my worthless life. Facing Qin Hao, Mount Ibaraki fiercely kowtowed 3 times. In front of the disciples, in front of the dozen or so elders of the outer court, he kowtowed loudly with his head on the ground. His heart was in a mess, and his words were incoherent as he begged Qin Hao to forgive his ignorance. He even begged Qin Hao to treat him like a black fart and let him go. This scene once again flashed the eyes of the audience. Earth Leaderboard 7th. The muscular guy in shorts on the stage was ranked 7th on the Earth roll. Didn't they agree to let Qin Hao die in the arena? Why was Mount Ibaraki kneeling like a black kuei? At this moment, many of the Red Daddy Society members were too ashamed to face anyone. They wished they could find a hole to hide in. Their great leader, the coquettish boss Yen of the outer court, was kneeling in front of a new student who had just arrived 10 days ago. The development of this matter had far exceeded everyone's expectations. No one would have thought that this bloody battle, which was known as a battle to the death, would end with Yen Baishan kneeling and kowtowing. Moreover, the battle seemed to have progressed too quickly. Mount Ibaraki had only made 2 moves. The first move was a domineering swing of the axe, and his arm was broken. The second move was personally taught by the vice principal, and his arm was broken again. With these 2 moves, Qin Hao had completely destroyed Mount Ibaraki's arrogance and taught him how to behave. I've waited for 10 days, but I didn't expect this to be the result. Earth Leaderboard 7th, but he's not as good as a new student. I think the vice principal must have been blind to teach Mount Ibaraki the technique. Mount Ibaraki's comprehension is too poor, and he probably didn't perform well, resulting in the defeat. That's right. If I had learned the kinetic photon ray technique, Qin Hao would have died. The group of disciples had different opinions, and their words were filled with disdain for Mount Ibaraki. At the same time, their faces were filled with jealousy. They had to admit that after this battle, Qin Hao would definitely be in the top 5 of the Earth leaderboard. Mount Ibaraki was a beginner 6-star origin ancestor, and after being taught by Ouyang Hua, his actual combat strength was comparable to a peak 6-star origin ancestor. Li Tianba, who was ranked 6th, was definitely not Mount Ibaraki's match. Even Naransu, who was ranked 5th, would have to pay a hefty price if she wanted to defeat Mount Ibaraki. On the other hand, Qin Hao had won so easily. Perhaps only the top 3 seniors in the outer yard could suppress this person's rise. It seemed like he would definitely become a core disciple. Of course, the disciples didn't think that Qin Hao would dare to kill Mount Ibaraki. Mount Ibaraki had become Yuan Huai's lackey and was the vice principal's second disciple. Killing Mount Ibaraki was undoubtedly a challenge to the vice principal and senior brother Huai. If Qin Hao wanted to enter the inner yard, he would have to get the letter of appointment from Ouyang Hua. If he killed Mount Ibaraki now, he would be openly making an enemy out of the vice principal. It was obviously unwise. In their opinion, in the next moment, Qin Hao would definitely respectfully help Yen Baishan up. Moreover, he would even apologize like a dog. However, everyone was wrong. Qin Hao wasn't moved by Mount Ibaraki's kowtow and begging. There were no losers in the battle arena, only dead people. Senior brother Qin Hao, I was blind. I shouldn't have stood up for Yuan Huai. Actually, there is no deep hatred between us. My cousin was also killed by Yuan Huai. To be honest, I wish I could skin Yuan Huai alive, chop him up, and feed him to the dogs to avenge my cousin. Chapter 320. The Vice Dean is present. His words attracted a wave of disdain from the crowd. Mount Ibaraki turned hostile faster than one could flip a book. You don't blame me for what happened to your cousin? Qin Hao said coldly. His axe once again flashed with brilliance. No. In fact, Yuan Huai is my enemy. I think that Yuan Huai is just a dog in front of senior brother Qin Hao. Killing him would dirty your hands. Why don't Senior Apprentice Brother Qin Hao be merciful and spare my life? I'm willing to show my domineering side and kill you in Huai. Firstly, it's to avenge my cousin. Secondly, it's to help Senior Brother Qin Hao. Mount Ibaraki was scared out of his wit. If Qin Hao's axe fell again, he would definitely report to the King of Hell. All right, I'll be merciful and end this two-faced, shameless dog's life. Whoosh! Qin Hao swung his large hand, and the light from the axe cut across Mount Ibaraki's neck. Hot blood spurted out from Mount Ibaraki's throat. Mount Ibaraki's eyes bulged as it fell to the ground. Its blood stained the arena and flowed down. Let you go? You're thinking too much. Qin Hao slammed his battle-axe into the ground. The one who had died in the end had already been executed. This action caused the disciples below to be extremely terrified. Qin Hao really did crack Mount Ibaraki. Wasn't he a little too bold? Didn't he want to get the mandate of command from Ouyang Hua? This guy. In the crowd, Li Tianbao, who was ranked 6th, clenched his fist nervously. Qin Hao killed decisively, and the strength he displayed made him fearful. He felt that Qin Hao was a threat. I am not as good as him. Naransu exhaled a wisp of fragrance and stroked Nalan Li's little head. His little sister did not misjudge. Qin Hao was indeed not an ordinary man. In comparison, she seemed to be a little short-sighted. She had once thought that Qin Hao was overestimating himself by challenging Mount Ibaraki to a duel. Now, it seemed that the one who had overestimated herself was Naransu. If the person fighting Qin Hao on the stage was not Mount Ibaraki but her, Naransu, she had no doubt that the blood on the stage would have been shed by her. From today onwards I, Naransu, have fallen to 6th place on the Earth rankings. Shaking her head in self-mockery, Naransu smiled helplessly in her heart. As expected of my boss. Qin Hao's victory was within Yi Shuihan's expectations. As expected of my brother. Yuning Chang's jade-like cheeks revealed a mesmerizing smile. Qin Hao's performance once again made her look at him in a new light. In just 10 short days, he had gone from a weak disciple of the Outer Yard's 1-star Yuan sect to an expert who could easily kill the 7th place on the Earth rankings. His improvement was terrifying. Yuning Chang suddenly recalled that Qin Hao's mental strength was as high as the 10th grade. It was not impossible for him to have his current cultivation level if he had taken some elixirs. Even so, Qin Hao's swing of the axe had amazed Yuning Chang. She felt that Qin Hao seemed to know all the techniques in the world, and those techniques could be used to their fullest in his hands. I want to dual cultivate with him tomorrow. Yuning Chang nodded. Qin Hao was a man full of mysteries. With his help, it would definitely be of great help to her. Her voice was very soft as a mosquito's buzz. When she said this, her face couldn't help but turn red, and she was extremely shy. She was a girl, and it was inevitable that she would have physical contact with Qin Hao if she dual cultivated with him. It was really a blushing matter. Not only was she blushing, if the other disciples heard this, there would be thousands of people rushing up to the battle arena and slashing Qin Hao with their swords and sabers. Yuning Chang was the Outer Yard's great elder. Her status was very honorable, and she was also the goddess teacher in the disciples' hearts. She actually wanted to dual cultivate with a freshman. It was simply, after this battle, Qin Hao's core disciple status will not be shaken. He won back his dignity for himself. The core disciple originally belonged to Qin Hao. Old Man Huang, the confused old man, and Siet Songhu nodded at the same time. They looked at Qin Hao with deep admiration. On the other side, after killing Mount Ibaraki, Qin Hao heard the discussions of the disciples below the battle arena. Some were afraid, some were jealous, and some were gloating over his misfortune. They said that he wouldn't be able to get the mandate letter. Qin Hao didn't pay any attention to him at all. He swept his gaze around and finally found a familiar figure in an inconspicuous corner. He shouted in a cold voice, "Elder Wang, since you're here, why hide? I won this battle. Where's the mandate letter you promised? 10 days ago, Qin Hao and Wang Dajuan made a bet and won Mount Ibaraki. Naturally, Wang Dajuan would bring the mandate letter. There were many people present who could prove it, including the various elders. Suddenly, everyone's gaze followed Qin Hao's gaze and found Wang Dajuan in the distance with a sinister face. Oh, you won? Then old man really has to congratulate you. As for the mandate letter? I'm just an elder. How can I deserve it? What qualifications do I have? You should go get it from the vice dean, Wang Dajuan said shamelessly. As soon as he said that, Qin Hao frowned and anger rose in his eyes. Wang Dajuan was toying with him. However, in the next moment, Wang Dajuan opened his mouth again, and his tone became extremely respectful. Coincidentally, the vice principal is also here today. Qin Hao, why don't you quickly kneel on the ground, clamp your pants, and beg Vice Principal Ouyang to bestow the mandate book to you. Boom! His words stirred up 1,000 waves. Wang Dajuan's words were like a heavy bomb thrown into the crowd, causing an uproar. The vice dean is here? Where is he? Many disciples were shocked. The vice dean was a figure who could cover the sky with one hand in the outer yard. It was rare to see him, but he was here? Wang Dajuan's words also shocked the other elders. They quickly looked around. Yuning Chang immediately became cautious. Ouyang Hua was here in person. While they were talking, a midget figure walked over leisurely with his hands behind his back, his head held high and his chest puffed out. This person's face was round and full of fat. He had a big belly and his body was like a ball. His limbs were short and small, and he was about 1 meter tall. He was originally a very funny person, but his eyes were full of darkness. They were as deep as a pool of black water. No one could see through him, and no one dared to guess. With just a glance, one could tell that this person's confidant was extremely dark, deep, and ruthless. He was the vice dean who could cover the sky with one hand in the outer yard. He was Yuan Huai's master, Ouyang Hua. Greetings, Vice Dean. Greetings, Vice Dean. Greetings, Vice Dean. Immediately, the outer yard disciples knelt down nervously. The low-level elders also knelt down, and the high-level elders bowed. Although it was a bow, it was extremely respectful. It could be said that once Ouyang Hua showed up, he was like the emperor who ruled the outer yard. Everyone submitted to him. At the scene, only 3 people could remain calm. One was Yuning Chang, the other was Yi Shuihan, and the last was Qin Hao, who was on the stage. Yuning Chang and Yi Shuihan were easy to deal with. They were the great elder of the outer yard, and the other was a good-for-nothing disciple. Yuning Chang's position in the outer yard was not much lower than Ouyang Hua's. Yi Shuihan himself was sloppy and had a fearless look. In short, it was not good for anyone to offend him. Compared to the two of them, Qin Hao seemed a little out of place, especially when he was standing high on the stage. Not only was his expression unchanged, but he did not even have a trace of respect. Chapter 321. Not admitting it, there was a vast majesty in his eyes that made people's hearts palpitate. Those with weak minds might even collapse on the spot. Qin Hao didn't react at all. He looked completely relaxed as he crossed his arms and leaned on the handle of the battle-axe in front of him with a smile that wasn't a smile. There was a faint trace of contempt in his smile. A mere vice dean wanted to show off his majesty in front of Dendi? What? Trying to scare me? You're using it in the wrong place. Ouyang Hua couldn't help but feel angry. Qin Hao was ignoring his majesty. Immediately, this illusory majesty turned into a substantial pressure that enveloped Qin Hao majestically. Orange origin energy fluctuated from his body. Ouyang Hua's origin energy was extremely dense, far beyond that of an ordinary mortal saint. This gaze, which was filled with monstrous pressure, allowed Qin Hao to clearly recognize the other party's strength. Profound Sage Realm, 8-star Profound Sage. Qi. His stomach turned, and a trace of blood flowed out from the corner of Qin Hao's mouth. He swallowed this mouthful of blood, and his eyes were filled with anger. Ouyang Hua was startled once again. This kid in front of him was ignoring his majesty. He wanted to use 20% of his pressure to make the other party lose face, but Qin Hao was able to withstand it. Ouyang Hua felt that he had lost face. As the vice dean, could it be that he couldn't even subdue a 16 or 17-year-old kid? You're Qin Hao? The 9th stage disciple who made a bet with Yuan Huai? Ouyang Hua asked coldly in a dead man's voice. Yes. Qin Hao wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, neither servile nor overbearing. Very good. Ouyang Hua nodded, and his voice became even colder. He pointed at Mount Ibaraki's corpse on the stage and asked, Did you kill him? Vice Dean saw it with his own eyes. Why ask when you already know the answer? Qin Hao secretly urged his origin energy, and the dragon whirlpool technique was raised to the extreme. His body flashed with blue light, and his strength increased several times in an instant. Until now, Ouyang Hua's pressure still hadn't been removed from his body. You've got guts. Ouyang Hua's eyes suddenly flashed, and the pressure in his eyes increased to 40%. The pressure doubled like a heavy mountain fell on Qin Hao's head, and Qin Hao staggered a few steps, leaving 2 footprints on the ground. However, this pressure was not enough to make Qin Hao submit. He grabbed the battle axe with both hands and supported himself against the ground. Ouyang Hua was startled. He withstood it again? That's 40% of my pressure. Not to mention the outer court disciples, even low-level elders would probably be scared to the point of peeing their pants under this gaze. However, Qin Hao remained standing on the stage. You're really stubborn. Did you know that Mount Ibaraki announced to the outside world that this lord is his master? Even though Ouyang Hua didn't acknowledge this disciple, he was implying that Qin Hao couldn't kill him just because he wanted to. The surrounding disciples immediately smiled. As expected, Qin Hao was going to be in trouble. At this moment, the pressure in Ouyang Hua's eyes increased again, from 40% to 60%. His gaze was sharp, and it was as if 2 balls of light were bursting out from his eyes. Crack! Qin Hao's battle axe suddenly broke from the middle. The battle axe's material was at the level of a low-grade weapon, and it couldn't withstand Ouyang Hua's gaze. What kind of damage did Qin Hao's body endure? The surrounding disciples couldn't help but feel a chill run down their spines. If it were them, they would have been smashed into pieces. On the stage, Qin Hao was relying on the support of the battle axe to remain standing. The moment the battle axe broke, he lost his balance. His body swayed and his legs couldn't help but kneel down. When his knees were only half a foot from the ground, along with the creaking sound of his bones, Qin Hao's bent legs slowly rose up bit by bit. At the same time, blood flowed from his mouth, nose, and ears. Even his eyes were bleeding from the pressure. But he still didn't give in. In the end, he straightened his back in front of everyone. The disciples below the stage were all amazed. Even the disciples who used to be jealous and despised Qin Hao couldn't help but admire him. The scene in front of them moved them. Qin Hao was a man. If it were anyone else present, even the low-level elders, they wouldn't be able to compare to him. I killed him. Not to mention Mount Ibaraki, even if Yuan Huai was standing on the stage, I would still kill him. Qin Hao clenched his teeth and said. His body was trembling like a sieve. What a big tone! Ouyang Hua's patience had reached its limit. With a roar, his fat fists secretly clenched in his sleeves. He was secretly increasing the pressure on Qin Hao. Ouyang Hua, what are you trying to do? A stern rebuke sounded. A white figure stood between Qin Hao and Ouyang Hua. The anger on Yun Yingchang's face was self-evident. Ouyang Hua had gone too far. Yingchang, why are you doing this? What if I hurt you? Ouyang Hua was shocked. He immediately dispersed his aura and his eyes were full of concern. He could see Qin Hao's disciple as a pig or a dog, but he couldn't bear to hurt Yuning Chang. His affectionate greeting also made the new students understand that the vice principal was also one of Elder Yun's fanatical admirers. However, this vice principal with a fat head and big ears and a short stature was really out of place when he stood together with Elder Yun, who was as beautiful as a fairy. Everyone felt that their eyes were polluted. Vice Principal Ouyang, today's battle was decided 10 days ago. Even if you want to stand up for Yuan Huai, you can't bully a new disciple like this, right? The core disciple position originally belonged to Qin Hao. However, due to Wang Dajuan's obstruction and framing, and because you weren't in the school at that time, Qin Hao had already tolerated a lot and made a lot of concessions. Today, in the battle with Mount Ibaraki, he won fair and square. According to the agreement, you should recognize his identity as a core disciple and write a letter of appointment for the inner yard to review so that Qin Hao can be promoted to an inner yard disciple. The confused old man Huang, and Xiet Songhu walked forward at the same time and stood in a row behind Yuning Chang. They also blocked Ouyang Hua's aggressive aura for Qin Hao. Ouyang Hua's style was really unbearable. He actually attacked a new student who had just arrived at the school. Agreement? What agreement? Since it's an agreement with Wang Dajuan, what does it have to do with me? Even if it has something to do with me, did you inform me? Did you consider whether I agreed or not? You want to use the letter of appointment to make me recognize Qin Hao as a core disciple? No way. Ouyang Hua said overbearingly. His words were arrogant and domineering, and he refused to admit it. He didn't give the others a chance to speak and continued, according to my disciple, the 9-segment mark should belong to her, but it was taken away by that villain Qin Hao using despicable means. For this, he even injured my disciple. I didn't even settle the score with Qin Hao, and you still dare to ask me for the letter of appointment? Vice Dean Ouyang, the forest assessment didn't say that we can't take other people's marks. On the contrary, taking marks is a method of the inner yards assessment. Yuan Huai's skills were inferior, and he lost the mark because he didn't have the ability. Or you can ask him to come out and fight with me. My fellow disciples can be witnesses. If I lose, I don't care about the letter of appointment. Qin Hao suppressed the anger in his heart and said with extreme indignation. He had seen shameless people before, but he had never seen someone as shameless as Ouyang Hua. Chapter 322. The Fourth on the Earth Leaderboard. You want to fight with my, Ouyang Hua's disciple? Who do you think you are? What qualifications do you have? Ouyang Hua gloomily looked at Qin Hao on the stage. His tone was arrogant and condescending. Qualifications? My boss's imprint is at the 9th phase, and he is a core disciple of this year. Fighting with Yuan Huai is giving him face. Speaking of qualifications, what qualifications did Yuan Huai have? Who does he think he is? Just tell me if you're scared. Yi Shuihan walked over while picking his nose. His fingers kept digging, and with a casual flick of his finger, a black substance stuck to Ouyang Hua's face. Ouyang Hua immediately flew into a rage. He was utterly disgusted. His fat face trembled with anger as he pointed at Yi Shuihan. His gaze was murderous. You, Vice Principal, not only did you bully Qin Hao, you also want to murder this year's outstanding disciples? Don't blame the old man for not reminding you. His surname is Yi. Losing half a strand of hair won't do you any good. On the other side, Old Man Huang had already spoken with a cold expression. Ouyang Hua was stunned for a moment, then a kind smile appeared on his face, and his arrogance eased a lot. He could not afford to offend anyone from the Luoshui Empire with the surname Yi. Cut the crap. Today you must take out the mandate book. If not, I'll ask the old dean for it. If the old dean comes out of seclusion, I'm afraid you won't be happy to see him. In order to let Qin Hao enter the inner courtyard smoothly, Yuning Chang had endured too much. It was fine if Ouyang Hua was willing to write the letter today, but if he wasn't willing, then the outer court would be in chaos. Vice Principal didn't allow Yuan Huai to show himself. He must be afraid. Are you afraid of Qin Hao's strength? According to the new junior brothers, Qin Hao once slapped Yuan Huai in front of everyone. He slapped Yuan Huai so hard that he couldn't even fight back. In the end, he ran away with his crotch between his legs. This is a huge scandal for Yuan Huai. Ha ha! There's actually such an exciting matter. No wonder the vice principal didn't allow his disciple to show himself. So it turns out that Yuan Huai was beaten into a coward. He's traumatized. The group of disciples whispered to each other, discussing in low voices. Although his voice was soft, it was clearly transmitted to Ouyang Hua's ears. It was extremely harsh. As the discussion grew, Ouyang Hua's face grew uglier and uglier. Everyone, please don't get angry and hurt everyone's feelings. Today's matter is all old man's fault. I shouldn't have made the decision on my own and accepted this battle on behalf of Vice Principal Ouyang. The responsibility lies entirely with me. It has nothing to do with the vice principal at all. When Wang Dajuan saw the situation, he hurriedly rushed forward to explain, helping Ouyang Hua take the blame. That's right. I didn't know about the battle between Qin Hao and Mount Ibaraki at all. Therefore, this battle doesn't count. Of course, my disciple didn't come out not because he's afraid of Qin Hao. It's because he caught a cold and is currently recuperating from his serious injuries. During this period, my disciple has improved rapidly. His strength has already reached an unimaginable level. He's only stronger than Kongshan, who's ranked 4th on the Earth leaderboard. As if he was prepared, Ouyang Hua spoke with deep foresight. His expression was like that of an old fox hiding his sword. Aya, when did Yuan Huai become a peak 9-star sky-grade ancestor? He's truly worthy of being the vice principal's disciple. No one can compare to his aptitude. He's more than suitable to be a core disciple. He's not someone who relies on despicable methods and trash disciples who shoot arrows behind their backs can compare to. Wang Dajuan cooperated with Ouyang Hua with great tacit understanding and laughed. On the stage, Qin Hao's heart trembled. From the two's lewd conversation, he could already hear a trace of something fishy. But I, Ouyang Hua, am not someone who bullies others. Since everyone has seen my disciple's strength, why don't we let Kongshan take my disciple's place in the battle? To be honest, it's really too convenient for Qin Hao. After all, Kongshan isn't as strong as my disciple. It's just that my disciple caught a cold at the last minute. Sigh, the heavens are blind. Ouyang Hua shook his head and sighed with a look of pity. It was as if it was everyone's loss that Yuan Huai couldn't come out and show his strength. At the same time, it was also Qin Hao's fortune. Isn't that Kongshan over there? Since you're here, there's no need for old man to look for you. Student Kongshan, you can take Yuan Huai's place in the battle with Qin Hao. Although Qin Hao is ridiculously weak, and might not be able to take one move from you, you're not as strong as Vice Principal Ouyang's disciple, Yuan Huai. Wang Dajuan's eyes suddenly lit up as he pointed his finger at a certain spot. He didn't even look as he pointed there, as if the heavens had already arranged for Kongshan to wait there. Everyone looked in the direction he was pointing and saw a tall disciple dressed in white. This disciple was around 20 years old, and was as straight as a sword. His face was as sharp as a knife, and he was very handsome. He carried a large sword on his back, giving him the vibe of a white-robed sword saint. His appearance was very convincing. In an instant, the battle arena square was in an uproar. The male disciples' eyes were fiery, and the admiration in their eyes was self-evident. The female disciples had already lost their voices and screamed. Many beautiful female disciples were so excited that they almost fainted on the ground. Kongshan. He had been in the academy for 2 years and was a peak 9-star sky ancestor. He was only 1 step away from stepping into the Saint stage and was ranked 4th on the Earth leaderboard. In fact, the gap between Naransu, who was ranked 5th on the Earth leaderboard, and Kongshan was huge. Above the 4th place was a watershed on the Earth leaderboard. As for the top 3, they had already entered the Saint stage. Usually, it was very difficult to see the top 3 seniors. They were all invincible characters who had transcended mortality and entered the Saint stage. Each of them was a legend and had already been reserved by many elders in the inner court. Usually, they would find a secluded place where no one would disturb them to cultivate. If they had free time, they would go down the mountain and wander the pugilistic world to root out the strong and help the weak. It could be said that he was a swordsman from Chiyang University. In name, Kongshan was already the number 1 person in the outer court. Now, this person in name was preparing to make a move against Qin Hao, a freshman. In fact, when Wang Dajuan spoke, the white-clothed Kongshan had already walked up with a large sword on his back. This made many disciples break out in cold sweat for Qin Hao. This battle was unavoidable. Recently, I have been in seclusion, striving to be like the top 3 seniors on the Earth leaderboard and step into the Saint stage as soon as possible. I just came out yesterday and was very lucky to know that there are 2 new juniors in the outer court who are doing well and are respected by others. Immediately, Kongshan also spoke. His words were very cold and arrogant. He had heard that there was a new person in the outer court. It was Qin Hao, who had a 9th phase Gundam imprint and was a new overlord. The other was Yuan Huai, who had been accepted as a personal disciple by the vice dean. Both of them were rare peerless geniuses. Therefore, he overestimated himself and went to look for Yuan Huai. He also overestimated himself and wanted to give him some pointers. In the end, he really overestimated himself and failed. I am ashamed to say that I couldn't even take a single move from junior brother Huai. I am ashamed to be ranked 4th on the Earth leaderboard. I am afraid that I will have to give up my 4th place. I am afraid that even the 3rd place on the Earth leaderboard may not be a match for junior brother Huai. I am really a joke, Sai. Kongshan laughed self-deprecatingly and appeared very humble. His humble smile was simply like a handsome qilin that had fallen from the sky in the eyes of the new juniors. Immediately, a few people could not bear this charming smile and fainted. Before they fainted, they shouted, "I will not marry anyone other than Kongshan in this life. I want to have monkeys with senior brother Kongshan." Immediately, the smile on Kongshan's face became even more charming. Therefore, a few more female disciples fainted on the spot. It was also at this moment that Kongshan's gaze tightened. He coldly glanced at Qin Hao on the stage, his eyes full of contempt. Chapter 323. Translator, Nyoibo Studio Editor. Nyoibo Studio plotting against me? Plotting against me? Faced with this provocative gaze, Qin Hao's fighting spirit was ignited. He had thought that by defeating Mount Ibaraki, he would be able to clear his name and take back the letter of appointment that belonged to a core disciple. Who would have thought that Ouyang Hua would act shamelessly and refuse to admit it, making Wang Dajuan, that old bastard, take the blame? At this moment, Mr. Kongshan, who was ranked 4th on the Earth leaderboard, suddenly appeared. This person was very arrogant. He thought that the sword god was a handsome man and looked down on Qin Hao for no reason. This was a scheme that had been planned long ago. On the other side, Ouyang Hua nodded in satisfaction when he saw the battle between Qin Hao and Mr. Kongshan. This was the result he wanted. Qin Hao's victory over Mount Ibaraki had indeed exceeded his expectations. He believed that Qin Hao should have died under Mount Ibaraki's kinetic light wave. He had personally taught him that Yuan skill. Fortunately, he had kept a trump card and found Mr. Kongshan in advance. In order to get Mr. Kongshan to appear, Ouyang Hua had sacrificed a lot and given him many benefits. This was all Yuan Huai's fault. Although Yuan Huai's talent was extraordinary and his current strength had reached the peak of an 8-star sky origin ancestor, he was only 1 star away from Mr. Kongshan. However, he did not dare to fight with Qin Hao. Yuan Huai was even willing to fight to the death with a group of mortal sages. He did not dare to face Qin Hao. As the saying went, there was always someone to defeat someone else. In front of anyone, Yuan Huai would be full of confidence. However, in front of Qin Hao, he immediately became a coward. This was because his ocular techniques were useless against Qin Hao. Ouyang Hua was completely speechless with this disciple of his. He had no choice but to ask Mr. Kongshan to fight. Actually, he wanted to find the first on the Earth leaderboard and directly kill Qin Hao. Unfortunately, with his position as the vice dean, he was unable to restrain the top 3 disciples of the outer court. Those disciples were beyond the control of the outer yard and had caught the attention of the inner yard elders. They would become inner yard disciples in the future. Ouyang Hua couldn't wait to curry favor with them, so how could he dare to give orders? Unless he wanted to be slapped to death by an old monster from the inner yard. And this Lord Kongshan was nominally the number 1 disciple of the outer court. He was more than capable of killing Qin Hao. With the death of Qin Hao, the core disciple position naturally fell on Yuan Huai's head. When the time came for him to be promoted to an inner court disciple, Ouyang Hua would also bask in the glory. Ouyang Hua thought so in his heart. He politely said, "Student Skypeak, there is no need to be modest. In fact, after your fierce battle with Huay'er last night, he also admires you greatly. He said that it was an extremely difficult victory and that you were just lucky." In the eyes of Old Man, Student Skypeak is the number 1 swordsman in the outer yard. I estimate that after the 4 Great Academies Rising Star competition, you will also be nominated to enter the inner yard. This is truly an extreme honor. It is not something a rookie who just arrived at the school can compare with. Wang Dajuan licked his face to curry favor with Lord Kongshan and did not forget to mock Qin Hao. 4 Great Academies Rising Star competition? Sorry, I don't need to participate in that kind of trash competition. In fact, the inner yard's elder Chudian has already privately accepted me as a disciple. Lord Kongshan was disdainful of the so-called Rising Star competition. That was a stupid competition for rookies who just arrived at the school. And his superb talent in swordsmanship had already caught the eye of an inner yard elder. Elder Chudian is a second-rank elder of the inner yard. To actually accept you as a disciple, Lord Kongshan is truly worthy of being the number 1 disciple of our outer yard. When Wang Dajuan heard this, the respect on his face became even more respectful. He wished he could kneel down like a dog. How can I be considered the number 1 disciple of the outer yard? Junior Brother Huai is the number 1 disciple of the outer yard. No, 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 how could my disciple dare compare with Student Skypeak? You are number 1. Junior Brother Huai is number 1. You are number 1. Junior Brother Huai is number 1. The 3 people also flattered each other in front of all the disciples present. Their words were incomparably modest. This boasting went on for a full hour. It also made all the disciples feel wronged. When could they be as outstanding as Lord Kongshan and be taken in by an inner yard elder? It was probably impossible in this lifetime. While chatting and laughing, Lord Kongshan exaggerated Yuan Huai's strength by more than 10 times. He did not mention a word about Qin Hao. It was as if in his eyes, Qin Hao was nothing more than a mass of air. A casual fart from him was enough to send Qin Hao back to his hometown in the Jiang Kingdom. Lord Kongshan's modest words also made the disciples present even more envious and adoring. It was simply admiring to the extreme. Not only was Senior Brother Kongshan's strength tyrannical, he was also so modest and low-key. He was a role model for our generation. At the same time, it also confirmed their belief that Yuan Huai was stronger than Qin Hao. Even senior brother Kongshan was not a match for Yuan Huai. What did Qin Hao count as? Speaking of which, Yuan Huai not appearing today was Qin Hao's fortune. Naturally, this flattery also made Ouyang Hua's heart feel crooked. He sighed in his heart. Should he give Lord Kongshan some more benefits? Firstly, the other party's flattery was wonderful beyond compare. Secondly, he could get close to Elder Chu Dian of the inner yard. Thus, the three people chatted with smiles on their faces for another hour. Qin Hao, who was listening on the stage, had the urge to doze off. Lord Kongshan also saw Qin Hao's rudeness and loudly snorted coldly. So today, I will overestimate myself again and teach the second junior brother. Thinking about it, this junior brother Qin Hao should be as outstanding as junior brother Huai, right? But don't worry, when I, Lord Kongshan, fight you, I will at most use 40% of my strength to prevent others from saying that I am bullying a new student. That's great. My disciple just happened to catch a cold, and Kongshan's strength is about the same as my disciple's. It's reasonable for him to replace Huai in the battle. How about it, Qin Hao? If you defeat Lord Kongshan, I will immediately give you this letter of appointment. As he spoke, Ouyang Hua's space ring flashed, and he took out a piece of paper. He raised it and waved it at Qin Hao across the air, as if to lure him in. It was obvious that he had written the letter of appointment long ago. The premise was that Qin Hao had to defeat Lord Kongshan to get it. Rumble. The conversation between the two struck the hearts of the disciples like a thunderclap. Lord Kongshan was indeed going to attack Qin Hao. His sword technique was unparalleled in the outer yard. It was rumored that even the top 3 seniors did not dare underestimate him. Even if Lord Kongshan only used 40% of his strength, dealing with a mere 5-star Yuan ancestor like Qin Hao would be as easy as crushing an ant. At this moment, Yuning Chang and the other elders' expressions changed drastically. What was the difference between letting Qin Hao fight a peak 9-star Yuan ancestor and sending him to his death? No. Without waiting for Qin Hao to nod, Yuning Chang refused. I don't agree either. I don't agree. You are clearly working together to trick him. How can Qin Hao be Lord Kongshan's match? Ouyang Hua, do you have any shame? Old man Huang, the confused old man, and Siet Sanghu rebuked angrily. Ouyang Hua was extremely sinister. I don't agree either. Yi Shuihan stepped forward, his expression unusually solemn and cautious. Qin Hao could easily defeat He Kuei, who was ranked 9th on the Earth roll, and kill Mount Ibaraki, who was ranked 7th on the Earth roll, but he was definitely not a match for Lord Kongshan, who was ranked 4th. Chapter 324. Full Strength. You said that you didn't know anything about the battle between Mount Ibaraki and my boss. Could it be that you didn't teach him his kinetic light wave? Also, you keep saying that Lord Kongshan was defeated by Yuan Huai. Who saw it? Who can testify? Yi Shuihan questioned. Brother Hao, don't be fooled by them. Nalanli said, feeling extremely angry. You dare to doubt me, Ouyang Hua? Ouyang Hua raised his head and stared at the crowd, imperceptibly emitting the dignity of the vice dean, putting on airs. A group of scoundrels. If you're afraid, then be afraid. Not only do you doubt the vice dean, but you also dare to slander my character. Today, I must teach you a lesson. Otherwise, wouldn't it be disrespectful to my master, Elder Chu Dian? Lord Kongshan's face was also filled with anger. Even the inner dean elder wanted to take him as a disciple. From this, it could be seen that he, Lord Kongshan, had a good character, noble character, and was a male god. Many of the surrounding disciples also began to clamor, especially those infatuated female disciples. Between their words, there was a wave of criticism. In the end, the spearhead was all pointed at Qin Hao, saying that Qin Hao did not have the courage to fight Lord Kongshan. From this, it could be seen that Qin Hao was actually inferior to Yuan Huai. Alright, I accept this battle. Qin Hao's eyes narrowed. Today, he had to fight even if he did not want to. Fighting was to prove himself. If he did not fight, this dirty water would only get thicker and thicker. In the end, it would implicate everyone and cause his friends to lose face. Moreover, Qin Hao did not fear Kongshan Birdman at all. Qin Hao, don't be a moth to a flame and seek your own destruction. Naransu had already cried out in shock below the stage. If she took out all her strength and trump cards to fight Mount Ibaraki, she was confident of winning. But against the fourth-ranked Lord Kongshan, she probably could not block even one sword. Qin Hao accepted this battle. If this action was not seeking death, what was it? To this, Qin Hao did not respond. He looked at Lord Kongshan and said indifferently, I can fight, but once on the battle stage, do you understand? Of course I understand. Those who ascend the stage, regardless of life or death. But don't be nervous, I won't take your life. At most, I'll cripple your arms as a small punishment. I can also teach you how to behave. You should be more low-key like me. Don't be too arrogant. Lord Kongshan nodded with a smile, appearing very magnanimous. He couldn't help but attract the attention of the surrounding female disciples. They felt that Senior Kongshan was too benevolent. Even if he won, he would not take Qin Hao's life on the martial arena. He was worthy of being called the virtuous Senior Kongshan. This kind of martial spirit was admirable. As for Qin Hao, he should also quickly lower his head and admit defeat to Senior Kongshan. It would be best if he voluntarily cut off his arms to avoid making a fool of himself. As he spoke, Lord Kongshan was already using the wind and cloud step. It was as if he was invincible under the heavens, and it was hard to find a worthy opponent. Ouyang Hua, if you win this battle again, will you keep your word and give me the mandate book? As Birdman Kongshan ascended the stage, Qin Hao roared loudly. Of course. I, Ouyang Hua, am the outer court vice dean. My words are like nails and my reputation is good. If you win against Lord Kongshan, I will recognize your identity as a core disciple and hand over the mandate book with both hands. Unfortunately, you can't win. Ahahaha. As Qin Hao fell into the trap that had already been set up, Ouyang Hua laughed in spite of his identity. His midget laugh was so ugly that it was full of ugliness. The moment Lord Kongshan ascended the stage, Yuning Chang, Yi Shuihan, and Nailin Li's hearts were also raised to their throats. Their gazes were firmly fixed on the two figures on the stage. They could understand Qin Hao's feelings. This battle had to be fought, but it was extremely dangerous. They could only blame Ouyang Hua for not being a good person. I will definitely report this matter to the old dean. Yuning Chang clenched her small hands, gritted her jade teeth, and looked at Ouyang Hua with a murderous gaze. This was the first time in her life that she hated someone so much. And her mood was actually because of Qin Hao. This made Yuning Chang feel that it was a little absurd. On the stage, Qin Hao and Lord Kongshan stood opposite each other with a 5-meter gap. The wind gently blew, blowing the sleeves of the two white figures and their hair. It was as if time had frozen at this moment. The surrounding air was filled with a thick murderous aura. Brat, do you know how many eyes Horse Prince has on his head? Before making a move, Lord Kongshan coldly asked. I don't know. Qin Hao was expressionless. In fact, he was too lazy to talk nonsense. Actually, I don't know either, but you will know soon. Because you are about to go on a date with Horse Prince, I will stab you to death with a sword, and dig a big hole in your heart. This is the result of overestimating yourself and snatching things from Yuan Huai. Lord Kongshan lowered his voice, using a voice that only the two of them could hear. There was no longer a trace of elegance. At this moment, his face was as ugly as an evil spirit. Qin Hao could also be considered to have experienced what it meant to be a beast in human skin. This face was not unfamiliar. It was the same as Gale's. Make your move. Qin Hao's interspatial ring flashed, and 2 pills appeared in his palm. He raised his hand and swallowed them. Just now, he had withstood Shorty Ouyang's pressure and had suffered some internal injuries. As the pills entered his stomach, his pale complexion gradually recovered. This scene caused the disciples below the stage to snort in disdain. Before the fight even began, Qin Hao had already swallowed the pills in advance. Senior Kongshan promised to only use 40% of his strength. Qin Hao actually swallowed the pills. He has no sense of shame. Swallowing the pills is also a waste. I don't think he can block 3 moves from Senior Kongshan. Why 3 moves? 1 move and he will enter the coffin. Many disciples thought so. The sound of discussion spread to the stage, causing Lord Kongshan to feel incomparably noble. His image became much more radiant. He lightly twisted his sword fingers, and in an instant, the surrounding sword qi surged. Threads of blue qi revolved around his body. The blue qi became denser and denser, like 1,000 sharp swords accumulating power. To deal with you, you are not worthy of me using my sword. I will replace my sword with my finger and cripple your arm first. After he finished speaking, Lord Kongshan's eyes burst with light. He raised his hand and a sword finger pierced through the air. His target was Qin Hao's arm. He wanted to give Qin Hao a taste of his own medicine and let him have a taste of his own medicine. This was also Lord Kongshan's way of showing off in front of Ouyang Hua. As his finger fell, Qin Hao's arm flew up. He cried and writhed on the stage. A beautiful scene had already appeared in Lord Kongshan's mind. But when his sword finger shot out, Qin Hao's face was full of disdain. He also shot out a finger beam. Xiao xiao. 2 sounds. The finger beam and the sword finger collided and shattered midway. Qin Hao stood steadily, unharmed. This, Lord Kongshan's eyes widened in disbelief. His sword finger actually did not remove Qin Hao's arm. In fact, Qin Hao was not hurt at all. He rubbed his eyes and looked again. It was still the same. Don't act coquettishly in front of everyone. Actually, you don't make me feel threatened at all. Hurry up and show your trump card. If you don't use your full strength, you will only be embarrassing yourself. Qin Hao did not want to waste any more time. Once again, the blue aura on his body flourished. His cultivation level also rose for the second time. Peak 5-star Essence Ancestor. 6-star Essence Ancestor. 6-star Essence Ancestor. 7-star Essence Ancestor. 7-star Elementary Essence Ancestor. 7-star Essence Ancestor. Whoosh! Chapter 325. Sword Realm. I know it too, 7-star Yuan Grandmaster. Qin Hao's true cultivation level is a 7-star Yuan Grandmaster. No wonder he could easily crush He Kuei and kill Mount Ibaraki so easily. In just 10 days, he went from a 1-star Yuan Grandmaster to a 7-star Yuan Grandmaster. Oh my god, this has never happened before in the history of the Outer Yard. Exclamations rose from below the arena. Not only were the disciples shocked, but also the elders who were watching the battle. Even Ouyang Hua's mouth was wide open like a toad. It was simply unbelievable. To go from 1-star to 7-star in 10 days, what kind of heaven-defying aptitude was this? What kind of powerful mentality was this? This person can't be left alive. Ouyang Hua clenched his fists nervously, cold sweat rolling down his face. A chill rose from the bottom of his heart, and there was fear in his eyes. Qin Hao's improvement was too fast. Although his speed was slightly slower than Yuan Huai's current strength was an 8-star Yuan Grandmaster. However, his 8-star Yuan Grandmaster had relied on Ouyang Hua's super spiritual Qi courtyard and the large amount of mysterious crystals provided to rise to that level. On the other hand, Qin Hao, who had been stripped of his core disciple status, didn't have a good courtyard, and didn't have the support of tens of thousands of mysterious crystals. Actually, if Ouyang Hua had handed over the 20,000 mysterious crystals that Yun Wenhui had absorbed to Qin Hao, it was hard to imagine how terrifying his strength would be. Yuning Chong bit her lips lightly and looked excitedly at Qin Hao, who was wrapped in blue aura on the arena. It was too unexpected, too pleasantly surprised. On the side, Yi Shuihan shook his head bitterly and thought to himself, so what if he's a 7-star Yuan Grandmaster? Boss is facing Lord Kongshan, who is at the peak of 9-star. It's still hard to say who will win. He's too weak in terms of cultivation level. You're actually a mid-level 7-star Yuan Grandmaster. Lord Kongshan's heart was also extremely shaken. His voice grew louder, his voice rumbling out. Before the battle with Qin Hao, he had read the information 3 times. 10 days ago, Qin Hao was only a 1-star fighter. Therefore, he dared to accept Ouyang Hua's deal. He believed that he could simply spit on Qin Hao and drown him to death. Who would have thought that it would end up like this? Great. You hid your strength and tricked me. Not only do you have the strength of a 7-star Yuan ancestor, but you also ate some ghost elixir in advance. This ghost elixir must have increased your strength. Speaking to this point, Kongshan Jun looked enviously at Yun Ingchang below the stage. He believed that Qin Hao's medicine was a godly medicine given by Yun Ingchang. He immediately raised Qin Hao's star by 2 stars. But what he didn't know was that Qin Hao had only taken 2 vitality recovery pills to suppress his internal injuries. Qin Hao was fighting with Lord Kongshan, who was in his best condition with his injured body. Since you swallowed the elixir and hid your strength, no one should have any objections if I raise my strength from 40% to 80%, right? After all, Qin Hao is sinister and vicious. Lord Kongshan Jun took a deep breath and suppressed the waves in his heart. At this moment, he regained his confidence. He had underestimated his opponent too much. He only used 40% of his strength and didn't chop off Qin Hao's arm. To be honest, it wasn't considered shameful. The disciples below the stage nodded repeatedly, agreeing with Lord Kongshan very much. You talk too much nonsense. Qin Hao's injuries were more or less healed. As he stepped forward, the aura on his body trembled and was extremely intimidating. That sharp gaze made Lord Kongshan Jun involuntarily take a step back in panic. Then, Lord Kongshan Jun's face was filled with humiliation. He gritted his teeth and shouted, "A mere 7-star Yuan ancestor dares to be arrogant in front of me. This finger will definitely make you kneel and beg for mercy. Break." With that, 80% of his strength rose and he released another sword finger. This sword finger was several times stronger than the previous attack in terms of aura. It carried a sword intent and let out a cry. Qin Hao smiled slightly. The next moment, disdain appeared in his eyes once more. A mere illusory sword intent was nothing to worry about. He raised his right hand and channeled the dragon vortex technique in his body. A resplendent blue finger beam condensed and the golden finger was released again. Swoosh! Swoosh! 2 streaks of light dashed to the opposite side and collided midway. With a deafening sound, a cloud of black smoke exploded in the arena and shook violently. The tremors spread along the ground to the disciples' feet. The soles of their feet went numb and they swayed, lamenting the shocking power of their attacks. However, this time, Qin Hao should be lying in a pool of blood. After all, Kongshan Jun used 80% of his strength. The disciples nodded and believed in their guesses. However, as the black smoke on the stage dissipated, Qin Hao's figure with his arms crossed and a chuckle on his face made the disciples' eyes widen. What? That's impossible. He's not dead yet. Not only is he not dead, but he's also unharmed. The disciples stared at each other and finally looked at Kongshan Jun on the stage. They doubted whether Kongshan Jun's strength as a 9-star Yuan ancestor was fake. Even a 7-star Yuan ancestor like Qin Hao could not take care of him. The doubtful gazes made Kongshan Jun feel extremely humiliated. He could no longer maintain his gentlemanly demeanor and gritted his teeth as he took the sword from his back. I've really underestimated you. Your essence qi is incomparably pure and of high quality. It's not inferior to an 8-star Yuan ancestor at all. You now have the right to taste my sword. It's time for me to give everyone a real performance. With the sword in his hand, Kongshan Jun felt much more at ease and nodded. He was recognized as a sword Dao prodigy in the outer yard. Elder Chu Dian of the inner yard had taken a liking to his despicable Dao. There was no reason for him to be afraid of a mere 7-star Yuan ancestor like Qin Hao. He was prepared to unleash his strongest technique, blowing snow sword. It's Qin Hao's honor to be able to die in my supreme sword realm. Kongshan Jun adjusted his breathing. At this moment, a sword hum sounded from the sword in his hand. The surrounding temperature began to drop rapidly. Many disciples' faces turned cold. When they looked up, they discovered that snowflakes were falling from the sky. These snowflakes grew thicker as Kongshan Jun's sword intent strengthened. In the end, they covered the entire arena and the two people fighting on the stage. It was quite the beauty of a proud expert. However, once this sword was unleashed, there was only one expert left. Do I have the right to make you use your sword? But you don't even have the right to make me use my sword. Qin Hao extended a finger and waved it disdainfully at Kongshan Jun. He even shook his head and let out a sigh. This simply made Kongshan Jun fly into a rage and want to curse out loud. He had seen posturing before, but he had never seen someone like Qin Hao who could still be so cool and calm in the face of death. *CK your ancestors and disappear. Lord Kongshan finally could not help but curse. His greatsword slashed down, sweeping up wind and snow on the ground, forming a giant tornado that bombarded Qin Hao. The tornado was like a giant ice dragon, emitting a dull roar. The impact of the scene was too strong, causing the disciples below the stage to scream. Sword Realm. Senior brother Kongshan has cultivated Sword Realm. No wonder the old man from the inner court took a fancy to him. It's said that Sword Realm experts are like gods who rule the world in their own realm. Senior brother Kongshan is indeed the #1 person in the outer court in name. Even if we cultivate for another 100 years, I reckon we won't be able to cultivate Sword Realm. If Qin Hao can still live, I'll go to the toilet and eat shit. It seemed that the outcome was already decided. The disciples no longer held any hope that Qin Hao could still live. In the next moment, he would turn into a frozen corpse on the ground. Sword Realm? I know it too. Chapter 326. Myths are used to end roar. The dragon roared, and a vigorous flame shot towards Qin Hao when he turned around and waved his sword. It was like a fire dragon that was about 6 meters long. Half of the snow-covered arena melted in the instant the fire dragon took flight. The snow around Qin Hao and behind him turned into water, which evaporated in the sudden rise in temperature. A buzzing sound was heard. A circle of ripples spread out from Qin Hao to a radius of 10 meters. The temperature in this area was unbearably high. Without a doubt, this was a fiery sword realm. Within the sword realm, Qin Hao was the strongest. The fire dragon that flew away also collided with the frost dragon. The two opposing forces met on a narrow path. In the contest between fire and ice, the ice cubes that filled the sky exploded and melted in the raging flames. At this moment, the cries of the frost dragon seemed to ring in everyone's ears. They watched as the wind and snow that swept towards Qin Hao gradually disappeared in the flames. However, the fire dragon that circled the arena was not weakened in the slightest. After annihilating the frost dragon, it pounced and was already in front of Lord Kongshan. However, it did not follow up with another attack. Instead, under Qin Hao's control, it turned around and returned, turning into thousands of flames that burrowed into Qin Hao's body. These were his primordial fires. Qin Hao used his own primordial fires to open a fiery sword realm. There was an uproar below the arena. Everyone looked at Qin Hao with eyes that could no longer be described as shocked. Instead, they were filled with fear, reverence, and even submission. He, a 7-star Yuan ancestor, had blocked the attack of a peak 9-star Yuan ancestor. This attack was Lord Kongshan's final trump card, the Sword Realm Path. Ouyang Hua's eyes widened and his fists clenched tightly. It was as if thunder had struck him, and his mind was blank. Qin Hao had blocked it again. Not only had he blocked it, but from the exchange just now, he had enough ability to counterattack and severely injure Lord Kongshan. However, Qin Hao did not. "Is this real or not?" Yuning Chang said in a daze, staring at the young man on the stage who was famous but not arrogant. Sword Realm. Qin Hao had activated his own Sword Realm. "I can't believe this." Unknowingly, Naransu's jade-like hand had already covered her shocked little mouth, and her eyes were filled with trembling. Qin Hao's performance was earth-shattering. On the stage, Lord Kongshan's eyes were empty. He stood there like a fool. As time passed, his body began to tremble, and the trembling became more and more intense. In the end, his entire body trembled as if he had been electrocuted, and he had the urge to pee in his pants. His eyes were filled with intense fear. Plop! Amidst this fear, Monarch Kongshan seemed to have lost all his strength in an instant. He knelt on the ground, and the great sword in his hand fell to the side with a clang. Even now, he could still clearly feel the aura of death that the fire tornado brought with it. He had no doubt that if he had been hit, he would have been crippled even if he had not died. This was secondary. What truly made him feel despair was that Qin Hao had taken 3 of his moves with the strength of a weak 7-star Origin Grandmaster and remained unscathed. Even if he had used his ultimate technique, Blowing Snow Sword, he could not touch Qin Hao at all. Sword Realm, that was Lord Kongshan's Sword Realm. In the entire outer yard, he was the only one who had activated his Sword Realm. Even the seniors in the top 3 of the Earth Roll, who were stronger than him, did not have such extraordinary talent to activate their own Sword Realm. This was Monarch Kongshan's unique pride. Because of this, he was fortunate enough to be chosen by Elder Chu Dian of the Inner Yard, who had groomed him as a disciple. Now, this pride was no longer his alone. This was because another person in the outer yard had activated his Sword Realm. This person was standing opposite him. Qin Hao was younger than him, and his cultivation level was lower than his, but he had activated a Sword Realm that was more powerful than his. If Elder Chu Dian of the Inner Yard knew about this, Kongshan's reserved disciple would most likely be replaced. "You are not my match at all." Cram. Qin Hao threw away the axe handle in his hand. Due to the fact that this person was the reserved disciple of the Inner Yard Elder, he did not want to kill him. However, when Qin Hao threw the axe handle on the combat stage, the sound seemed to have shattered Monarch Kongshan's heart. It smashed his dignity, his confidence, and the brilliance of his Prince Charming into smithereens. He had been defeated by Qin Hao. The outer yard's nominal number 1, the arrogant Monarch Kongshan, had been defeated. How he yearned to be like the seniors in the top 3 and become an undefeated legend in the outer yard. However, Qin Hao had ended his dream. Especially that sentence, scram. It caused Monarch Kongshan to suffer torment and humiliation. "Qin Hao, you humiliated me like this today. I want you to die without a burial ground. Heaven and earth infinite, all swords return to the origin." Qin Hao had let Monarch Kongshan go, but that did not mean that Monarch Kongshan would let Qin Hao go. Immediately, he stood up from the ground in a violent rage. His face twisted to the extreme, and he bit the tip of his tongue, spitting a mouthful of blood onto the greatsword in his hand. This great sword was swiftly enveloped by a layer of dark red devilish light. In a flash, an intense brilliance exploded from the sword tip. At the same time, tens of thousands of illusory sharp swords also condensed from origin energy behind Monarch Kongshan. Although the swords were illusory, each one was hard to block with their sharpness. His meaning was obvious. He wanted Qin Hao to be pierced by 10,000 swords and die a horrible death. Stubborn. Qin Hao originally wanted to leave Birdman Kongshan with his life, but Monarch Kongshan wanted Qin Hao's life. No longer holding back, his interspatial ring flashed, and a blood-colored longsword fell into his hand. He simply raised his hand. Swish! A red line as fast as a flash of light attacked Monarch Kongshan's neck from Qin Hao's hand, extending past. Squelch! A fountain of blood sprayed out. Monarch Kongshan's pupils dilated, his eyes filled with disbelief. He had not even finished condensing his energy, and Qin Hao's attack had already arrived. This speed was too fast, and Monarch Kongshan indeed did not have the ability to receive this sword. Immediately, the origin energy that had not yet condensed on his body dispersed, and the 10,000 sword lights behind him also disappeared. Monarch Kongshan's blood-spurting throat made a gurgling sound, as if he wanted to speak, but his throat was already broken, and he could not speak. However, Qin Hao understood. The other wanted to ask what the name of this sword was. He indifferently replied, "This sword is called Graceful." "Oh right, I'll have to trouble you to tell me in my dreams. How many eyes does Horse Prince have? Thank you." Thump! Monarch Kongshan's head fell onto the arena, and he closed his eyes in satisfaction. A male god of a generation ended here. Kacha kacha, it was as if a bolt of lightning had struck down from the 9 heavens, striking each person's head, causing their hearts to violently tremble, and their breathing to frantically quicken. Monarch Kongshan died? He had used 3 moves in a row, boasting that he would cripple Qin Hao's arms. In the end, he could not block a single sword. The reversal of the situation did not conform to common sense, especially those female disciples who admired Monarch Kongshan. A moment ago they were still cheering for their male god, and in the next second, their male god was dead. But compared to the shock caused by Qin Hao at this time, an even more intense terror spread into each person's heart. The disciple chosen by Elder Chu Dian of the inner court was killed by Qin Hao. Good, Qin Hao, you are extremely daring, maliciously provoking an inner court elder's disciple, and using despicable means to massacre him. Monarch Kongshan was benevolent and righteous, and only used 80% of his strength. He originally wanted to exchange pointers with you, but you shamelessly took the opportunity to launch a sneak attack. Where is the enforcement team? Chapter 327. So what if I bully you? Numerous figures rushed towards Qin Hao's position. Their movement techniques were extremely fast. Xiao xiao, sounds of breaking through the air resounded in the arena, causing everyone to be unable to react in time. Rushing towards Qin Hao was a group of silver-robed enforcers. Every enforcer's strength had reached the level of a mortal saint. One of the captains even had the strength of a 5-star mortal saint. Qin Hao would not be able to escape this calamity. They moved quickly, but one person moved even faster. Yuning Cheng's figure twisted and she was already standing on the arena, standing in front of Qin Hao. With a wave of her small hand, an orange light burst out from her body, mixed with rolling flames. With a sweep, the group of silver-robed enforcers that were rushing over were sent flying. All of them were crying out in pain as they fell to the ground one after another. One move to defeat a group of mortal saints. Ying Chang, what is your relationship with Qin Hao? Is he worth your protection? Do you know the consequences of offending Elder Chu Dian? Ouyang Hua spoke, his heart trembling. Lord Kongshan had died an unnatural death in the outer court. The inner court's Chu Dian would definitely not let this matter rest. When the time came, he would be enraged and no one would be able to escape. Someone had to be the scapegoat, and Qin Hao was the best choice. I don't care if it's Chu Dian, Song Dian, or Lightning. Even if the vice president came personally, as long as I, Yuning Chang, am here, they can forget about harming Qin Hao. He is my brother. Yuning Chang stood in front of Qin Hao like a mountain. She was so angry that her face was slightly red. Traces of warmth flowed into his heart, causing Qin Hao to feel touched. He stood out from behind Yun Ing Chang and pointed at Ouyang Hua fearlessly. Shorty Ouyang, you don't have to use the inner court elder to scare me. You also don't have to frame me. I don't care about life and death on the arena. Moreover, I've already shown mercy to Lord Kongshan. It's him who doesn't know the difference between life and death. I believe that all the junior brothers and senior brothers present can see this. Qin Hao could have killed Lord Kongshan, but he withdrew his sword realm in time. I can testify. I can also testify that it was Lord Kongshan who insisted on seeking death. Qin Hao has already shown mercy. Old Man Huang's son, the confused old man, Xiet Songhu, and the other elders stood out. The other elders and some of the disciples also nodded. Everyone had clearly seen the fight just now. Qin Hao had indeed shown mercy. Moreover, so what if he didn't show mercy? Qiyang University's rule was that no one cared about life or death once they stepped into the arena. Presumably, even the elders of the inner court couldn't break this rule. Ouyang Hua, it's time for you to take out the mandate book, right? Qin Hao extended his hand in Ouyang Hua's direction. His gaze was unquestionable. Ouyang Hua had already acted shamelessly for the first time. The second time, he had personally made a promise. Every word of his was a nail. Take out the mandate book. Yi Shuihan stepped forward. That's right, take it out. Nalanli said. I hope the vice dean will keep his word and not lose your status as a senior. At this moment, Naransu no longer hesitated and stood up firmly for Qin Hao. Qin Hao had repeatedly created miracles and had won her respect and even admiration. Mandate book? What mandate book? Ouyang Hua's face was blank. He pretended not to know and wanted to deny it. Ouyang Hua, don't bully me too much. It's the mandate book in your hand. Qin Hao endured and endured. Even with Denda's temperament, he couldn't stand Ouyang Hua's untrustworthy style. The mandate book in my hand? Ouyang Hua was startled. Immediately, his fat hand rubbed the mandate book in his hand into a ball of paper and threw it into his mouth. He chewed a few times and swallowed it. Then, he spread out his hand and said, The mandate book, where is it? Yuning Chang was so angry by this shameless action that she almost vomited blood. She angrily pointed at the short man below. Ouyang Hua was really shameless to the extreme. In the first battle, he said that he wasn't at the scene and didn't admit it. He even let Wang Dajuan carry the bucket of shit away. In the second battle, he personally promised that as long as he defeated Kongshan Jun, he would admit Qin Hao's identity as a core disciple and hand over the mandate book. But now, Ouyang Hua once again went back on his word and shamelessly ate the mandate book. Who said that every word is a nail? Who said that his reputation was good? I've seen shameless people, but I've never seen someone like you who is worse than a pig or a dog. Is this the vice dean of Qiyang University? You've really opened my Qin Hao's eyes. The violet meteorite sword in Qin Hao's hand was already creaking. The blade shone with a strong blood-red light. Bully me. Suppress me. Humiliate me. I can endure it. I will use my actions to prove to all of you who is more qualified to become a core disciple. But again and again, you refuse to admit it and act shamelessly in front of me. I absolutely cannot tolerate it. Oh, little brat, you're still anxious? Do you want to bite me? If I don't give it to you, what can you do? The old dean isn't here. If I don't agree, you'll never be able to enter the inner courtyard. What can you do to me? You mischievous disciple have no respect for your elders and insulted me by calling me a short man. What can I do if I eat your mandate book? Moreover, I heard that a few days ago, you used the medicine tower as a cover to sell fake medicine in the outer courtyard's killing zone. You've harmed many people. Many disciples have already complained to me. You still want the mandate book? Let me tell you, no way. Ouyang Hua laughed sinisterly. He pointed at Qin Hao, who was on the stage, and shouted, "Everyone, come and take a look. This person killed a disciple designated by an elder of the inner courtyard, which is already a heinous crime. He even used the name of the medicine tower to sell fake medicine, which is even more unforgivable. This kind of behavior is too vile. Qiyang University absolutely won't allow it. I'm now using the name of the outer courtyard's vice dean to kill this thief on the spot. I presume that no one has any objections, right? Since no one has any objections, I'll enforce justice on behalf of the heavens. Qin Hao, prepare to die." Ouyang Hua didn't give anyone time to respond. His meatball-like body suddenly bounced up from the ground. He raised his fat palm and slapped it toward Qin Hao. The strength of an 8-star profound sage completely erupted. He didn't give Qin Hao any chance of survival. This scene caused everyone to cry out in alarm. Ouyang Hua acted too quickly. As the vice dean, he attacked his disciple without any hesitation. Yuning Chang didn't even have time to react. Was this still the style of a vice dean? Moreover, even if Yuning Chang had reacted, it would have been too late. She wasn't Ouyang Hua's opponent at all. "I have an objection." A muffled groan slowly came from afar. The voice was extremely old, like smoke drifting in spirals. However, this seemingly weak voice was like a giant's palm. With a bang, it slapped Ouyang Hua's mouth. Ouyang Hua hadn't even rushed in front of Qin Hao when he fell below the stage. His face was swollen, and his mouth was 3 fingers thick. He looked like a pair of sausages, which made him look very funny. Which B** starred plotted against me. "Get the hell out here! It's Yao Lao." Ouyang Hua pays respect to Yao Lao. Ouyang Hua was originally furious. He opened his mouth and cursed wildly. In the end, before he could curse, he saw a skinny old man slowly walking in his direction with his hands behind his back. Chapter 328. The Gift of Sainthood. If there was anyone in the outer yard that should not be provoked, it would be Yao Lao, the guardian of the medicine tower. Yao Lao's identity was extremely mysterious, and could not be verified from the files of the outer court. But there was one thing that proved how terrifying he was. A few years ago, there was an elder who went to the medical tower to get medicine. He put on airs and refused to pay. Between his words, he fiercely insulted Yao Lao. As everyone knew, Yao Lao's slap had caused the elder to suffer from Alzheimer's disease. This matter had caused an uproar among the upper echelons of the outer yard, and they wanted to punish Yao Lao. Ouyang Hua was the one who suggested severe punishment. But in the end, not only did he fail to subdue Yao Lao, but Ol Amos' fists also rained down on Ouyang Hua's head. The barrage of attacks caused Ouyang Hua to scream for a long time. After the old dean beat up Ouyang Hua, he still bowed and nodded in front of Yao Lao like a coward and asked, "Are you satisfied with what I did?" At that time, all the senior elders present were so shocked that their eyes almost popped out. Ouyang Hua also had nightmares for several days. In his dreams, he was often scared awake by Yao Lao, and then he would cover his face and cry bitterly. After this incident, no one dared to disrespect Yao Lao anymore. After all, the old principal was as obedient as a grandson in front of this old man. But today Yao Lao came again. Oh my God! He had been guarding the medicine tower for decades, and this was the first time he took the initiative to come out. Also, why was his face so dark? His eyes seemed to be spitting fire. Did someone offend him again? That was really someone's disaster. Ouyang Hua had already begun to sigh in sorrow for offending Yao Lao. As Yao Lao walked over, the scene instantly quieted down. It was so quiet that it made one's hair stand on end. Everyone clamped their pants and lowered their heads, not daring to look into the old man's eyes. Everyone was afraid that their disrespectful gaze would arouse the old man's dissatisfaction. Only Qin Hao laughed. He laughed without any scruples and said, "Old man, why did you come out? Are you looking for me to chat? Or to give me medicine for free?" Qin Hao also said with a cheeky smile. Crack! Lightning flashed in their hearts. Everyone heard Qin Hao's rude laughter. Their mouths were wide open in extreme horror, and their eyes were filled with disbelief. Qin Hao, this fellow didn't know life from death. "Yes, I wanted to talk to you. I heard that there's a villain who's using my name to sell medicine in the outer court. Alas, my medical tower's business is not doing well. Who will pay for the losses?" Yao Lao jokingly scolded as he walked over. He then shakily walked up the stone steps to the battle arena and arrived beside Qin Hao. His eyes flickered with a sharp light. That thief selling fake medicine is Qin Hao. "You've found the right person, haha." Below the stage, Ouyang Hua was so happy that he was spitting saliva while laughing. When he killed Qin Hao, he had some misgivings in his heart. He was afraid that he would anger Yun Ying Chang because of this. If he killed Qin Hao and caused Ying to be unhappy, it would cause their relationship to break down. It would be heartbreaking for him. But now, Yao Lao wanted to settle the score with Qin Hao. Yes, this Qin Hao was dead for sure. There was no one who dared to sell fake medicine in the name of the medical tower. Even Ying couldn't save you this time. Ouyang Hua thought so in his heart. "Senior Yao Lao, my younger brother has just entered the academy. He's young and doesn't know any better. I hope you can be merciful." Yuning Chang was shocked. She quickly bowed and apologized on behalf of Qin Hao. If Yao Lao wanted to make things difficult for Qin Hao, she would be powerless. "Ying, how can you not take pity on yourself? You're willing to offend Yao Lao for Qin Hao? You've really disappointed me." Ouyang Hua shook his head. His eyes were full of smiles. He felt so good in his heart. This time, no one could save that little bastard Qin Hao. "Senior Yao Lao, Qin Hao is extremely talented in archery. He's a good seedling among the outer court disciples. I hope you can be merciful. Senior Yao Lao, Qin Hao also knows the Tao of spiritual arrays. The heavens are really blind for him to die at such a young age. Sir Yao Lao, Qin Hao has a close relationship with Yi Shuihan. I hope you won't make things difficult for him for Yi Shuihan's sake. At the very least, let him live. If you insist on breaking his legs, then I can only say that you can do it. Offending Yi Shuihan won't do you any good." "That's right, I'm Yi Shuihan. Qin Hao is my boss. You old man, who looks like you're not easy to deal with, only need to know that my surname is Yi." Suddenly, a large group of people rushed over and stood below the stage to plead for Qin Hao. Xiet Sung Hu praised Qin Hao's archery skills. The muddle-headed old man said that Qin Hao knew the Tao of spiritual arrays. Old man Huang also lowered his stance and pleaded for Qin Hao because of his special status. As for Yi Shuihan, he was already shouting without restraint. In short, everyone kept pleading. In the face of everyone's pleas, Ouyang Hua was naturally displeased. Extremely displeased. What did Qin Hao do to make so many elders speak up for him? However, when he saw that Yao Lao was indifferent, a bright smile bloomed on his face. Who was Yao Lao? The old dean didn't even dare to make a sound when he crippled an elder. Why would he let go of a mere Qin Hao for you? That was absolutely impossible. However, Ouyang Hua felt as if he was struck by lightning. "Here. This is for you." Yao Lao ignored everyone and raised his hand to throw something to Qin Hao. It was a herb with only 4 leaves and a purple stem. As soon as the herb was in his hand, a light medicinal fragrance quickly spread. It moistened one's heart and was intoxicating. Yun Ying Chang's delicate body trembled. She said in disbelief, Holy violet orchid. Panacea? Oh my God! Boom! It was as if a bolt of lightning had struck. The herb that Yao Lao gave to Qin Hao was a panacea. The holy violet orchid was extremely precious, and could only be consumed when one entered the sage stage. Anyone below the sage stage would definitely die if they consumed it. This herb could only be produced in the Medicine Valley. It could be said that it was the only one in the entire Luoshui Empire. Moreover, it had 4 leaves, which meant that it was a 400-year-old holy violet orchid. This was the best of the best. If a disciple who had just entered the sage stage consumed it, his strength would probably increase by 5 stars instantly. However, this priceless holy violet orchid was casually given to Qin Hao by Yao Lao. At this moment, the disciples below looked at Qin Hao strangely. Who was this person? Even Yao Lao gave him a free herb? As for Ouyang Hua, his heart had already fallen into a bottomless abyss. Judging from the scene in front of him, Yao Lao was not here to teach Qin Hao a lesson. He was here to show off. Then the person who would suffer would undoubtedly be Ouyang Hua. Immediately, a wave of fear swept through Ouyang Hua's body like a prairie fire. In fact, Yao Lao had already opened his mouth. Why are all of you so nervous? I feel like old friends with this kid at first sight. I quite admire him. Also, we have an agreement. If he is willing to chat with me, I will give him something for free. At this point, Yao Lao's gaze landed on Qin Hao again. He nodded and praised. I haven't seen you for 10 days and you have improved so quickly. Looks like the 3 herbs that I sold you had a great effect. But more importantly, it is your hard work. You are about to enter the sage stage. Are you satisfied with this holy violet orchid? Can you sacrifice some of your time and condescend to chat with me for a while? Ha ha! Yao Lao suddenly laughed out loud. His words sounded as if he was begging Qin Hao. This scene caused more than 700 disciples below the stage to collectively faint. Chapter 329. 3 slaps just by chatting with Yao Lao. He would give her medicine for free? If there's such a good thing, why don't you come and find us? We'll be happy to chat with you. What's more, Yao Lao, who had a straight face, was smiling. It was rumored that Yao Lao, who had not smiled for decades, was smiling like a deity in front of everyone. This was already extremely terrifying. However, everyone also learned that Qin Hao's cultivation was single-handedly cultivated by Yao Lao. It was he who sold Qin Hao 3 stalks of medicinal herbs, allowing the other party to possess the strength to frighten kneeling Heikue, kill Mount Ibaraki, and defeat Lord Kongshan. So that was how it was. At this moment, everyone finally woke up. No wonder Qin Hao was so strong. With Yao Lao as his backing, how could he not be strong? He gave away another 400-year-old Saint Violet Orchid as a gift. There was no one else like him. Other people worked hard to reach the saint level, and then climbed up step by step from the saint level. As for Qin Hao, once he became a saint, his strength would instantly increase by several times. At this moment, no one doubted that Qin Hao was about to become number 1 on the Outer Court Earth rankings. It was rumored that the senior who ranked first on the Earth leaderboard was only a 3-star mortal saint. Qin Hao could easily surpass his opponent. This was the benefit of having Yao Lao backing him up. What they didn't know was that apart from the medicinal herbs provided by Yao Lao, Qin Hao's current strength also had a hidden secret, which was refining weapons into his body. A 400-year-old Saint Violet Orchid? It's SOSO. Qin Hao smiled and did not stand on ceremony. He kept the Saint Violet Orchid into his spatial ring for future use. His words caused everyone to roll their eyes again. A sacred medicine that could instantly raise his cultivation to 5 stars of mortal saint was still considered mediocre? Why don't you let us give it a try? Yao Lao, Qin Hao, that scoundrel, stole your name and ran amok in the outer yard. He sold fake medicine and harmed many disciples. Which bastard told you that Qin Hao stole my name? Not allowing Ouyang Hua to frame him, Yao Lao spoke out in a dignified manner. His eyes flashed with a sharp light as he intimidatingly said, I was the one who ordered Qin Hao to sell the medicine. Actually, the people I'm most worried about are the weak and toiling masses in the slaughter zone. As for whether the medicine was fake, are you suspecting me? Junior doesn't dare. Ouyang Hua broke out in a cold sweat. He originally wanted to blame Qin Hao, but he never thought that Yao Lao would personally testify for Qin Hao. However, he was still unwilling to give up. He continued, but Qin Hao also stole Elder Yun's Jade Palace. He's really audacious and has no regard for the rules of the school. He doesn't deserve to be a student of Qiyang University. In my opinion, this rascal should be, Ouyang Hua, do you have any shame? Yuning Chang roared, interrupting him. She had already explained the matter of stealing the Jade Palace in the outer court. The Jade Palace was given to him by her. Ouyang Hua still wanted to bring up the old score. How much did he hate Qin Hao? Steal? Yao Lao sneered and extended his hand towards Qin Hao. Give me the Jade Palace. Qin Hao didn't think too much. He took out the Jade Palace and handed it to Yao Lao. Yao Lao held the Jade Palace in his hand. His mind was filled with thoughts. He took a deep breath and looked at Ouyang Hua. Now try and see if you can steal the Jade Palace from my hands. Or will you die under my hands? This, Ouyang Hua's expression changed drastically. His heart trembled. Although Xiao Chen did not know exactly how strong Yao Lao's cultivation was, he was definitely stronger than Ouyang Hua's senior brother. He was definitely a heavenly sage expert. Ouyang Hua was just a small profound sage. How could he be a match for a heaven sage powerhouse? Aren't you sending me to my death? You have the face to say that? Yao Lao snorted, his eyes filled with disdain. As an 8-star profound sage, you don't even have the guts to steal the Jade Palace from me. Qin Hao is just a weak sky origin ancestor. How could he steal the Jade Palace from Little Yun's hands? Moreover, I heard that Qin Hao was only a sky origin ancestor before he entered the school. Yao Lao, have mercy. Plop. Ouyang Hua knelt down. He no longer dared to bite people, let alone talk back to Yao Lao. Qin Hao had Yao Lao as his backer. Once this old thing got angry, even 10 Ouyang Huas would be dead. The outer court is getting more and more outrageous. A mad dog can also become the vice dean. Could it be that I have to come out and clean it up? If that's the case, I won't be polite. After saying that, Yao Lao's aura surged. Surging waves of origin energy raged out, and the orange light on his body was incomparably intense. Within that orange light there was a faint red color. Red origin energy was the symbol of a sky origin king. This scene shocked everyone to the point that they were out of their wit. A sky origin king expert? Heavens! The old man guarding the medicine tower was actually a sky origin king expert. Although the red light was faintly discernible, it was indeed there. At this moment, Yao Lao's shriveled palm had already condensed a ball of terrifying origin energy. As he raised his hand, the origin energy fell on Ouyang Hua's head. My life is over. Ouyang Hua screamed miserably. Buzz. There was a scream, and a purple shadow swept over from the mountain peak far away. Its speed was unbelievably fast, and its aura was monstrous. Before Yao Lao could finish his attack, the purple shadow had already landed in the field and blocked in front of Ouyang Hua. It was also an old man. His face was ruddy, and his white beard fluttered in the wind. His upright and plain-spoken face was imposing. More importantly, he was wearing a purple robe. A purple robe was unique in the entire outer court. The old man in the purple robe stepped into the field. His eyes were full of arrogance, as if he did not care about anyone. Only when he looked at Yao Lao did he have a trace of imperceptible respect. However, he did not say anything. He immediately raised his hand and slapped Ouyang Hua's face. This slap was extremely ruthless. 2 broken teeth flew out of Ouyang Hua's mouth, and blood flowed out of his mouth. This slap also sent Ouyang Hua's meatball-like body flying 10 meters away. Ouyang Hua did not even dare to cry out in pain. He quickly ran back and knelt in front of the old man in the purple robe. Slap! The old man in the purple robe raised his hand and slapped Ouyang Hua again. This time, a few more teeth flew out of his mouth, and he was sent flying again. Just like before, Ouyang Hua immediately ran back and knelt on the ground. No one else could do this. Slap! The third slap landed. This slap was so ruthless that Ouyang Hua's face was deformed. His neck stretched out more than half a foot, and his eyeballs almost fell out of their sockets. He fell to the ground and rolled nonstop. His originally dignified clothes instantly became tattered, and he did not stand up for a long time. However, Ouyang Hua still did not dare to cry out in pain. His hands clasped the stone slab, and his 5 fingers trembled. He used all his strength to crawl back to the old man in the purple robe. A trace of heartache flashed across the old man's face. He turned his head and looked at Yao Lao pleadingly. When he saw Yao Lao waving his hand, he fiercely shouted at Ouyang Hua, "Go back and reflect on your mistakes." Cram! After speaking, the old man in the purple robe did not give anyone time to react. He jumped up and swept towards Qin Hao. He lifted Qin Hao's shoulder and disappeared into the distant clouds like a rock. Ouyang Hua, on the other hand, scrambled to his vice-dean's courtyard without even looking back. He looked extremely pathetic. Chapter 330. The old dean stepped into the picture. He could bite people all over the world like a mad dog, and he could also treat anyone with disdain. There was only one person that Ouyang Hua only had respect in his eyes. That was the old dean of Qiyang University, Ouyang Hong. Ouyang Hong was the adopted son of the previous dean and was also Ouyang Hua's senior. He was the only person in the world who did not despise or mock Ouyang Hua. He was also the only person who treated him like a brother. In Ouyang Hua's heart, his senior brother Ouyang Hong was his big brother, his only family in the world. Today, his senior martial brother came out of seclusion because of Qin Hao. In front of Yao Lao, he personally slapped Ouyang Hua 3 times. This caused Ouyang Hua's heart to feel extremely wronged. His senior apprentice brother had never been so cruel as to hit him. He had only taught him a lesson twice. The first time was for Yao Lao. Back then, Yao Lao had crippled an elder, and Ouyang Hua had proposed to severely punish Yao Lao. In the end, he had received a round of punches and kicks from his senior brother. The second time was today. Today, Ouyang Hua understood that with his senior apprentice brother's appearance, he would not have the chance to make a move on Qin Hao in the future. Qin Hao would also be able to smoothly obtain the letter of appointment from his senior brother and become a true outer yard core disciple. This was already destined. At this moment, even if Ouyang Hua was given 100 guts, he would not make things difficult for Qin Hao. Since he couldn't make things difficult for Qin Hao, he could only go home and make things difficult for Yuan Huai. If it weren't for Yuan Huai, Ouyang Hua wouldn't have to go back on his words today and become a joke in the outer yard. If it weren't for Yuan Huai, he wouldn't have become a clown in front of Yuning Chang. If it weren't for Yuan Huai, he wouldn't have been slapped by his senior martial brother for nothing. It was all Yuan Huai's fault. Of all people, he just had to pick a fight with Qin Hao. Qin Hao had the invincible Yao Lao's back. "See if I don't beat you to death." The purple-robed old man gave Ouyang Hua 3 slaps and disappeared into the distance with Qin Hao. The disciples present were very puzzled. Who on earth was this purple-robed old man who looked so awesome? The vice principal was beaten to the point that he crawled like a dog, not daring to complain at all. Also, why did he grab Qin's senior martial brother? Senior Marshal Brother, Senior Marshal Brother Brother, Senior Marshal Brothers Senior. After all, these seniors who had been in the academy for 2 years had never seen this domineering purple-robed old man in the outer court. Only Yuning Chang and the senior martial elders present smiled and didn't say anything. They knew that this purple-robed old man was the mysterious senior martial brother of the senior martial brother, Ouyang Hong. I'll say the ugly words first. You can take him away, but Qin Hao and I have an agreement to have a good chat. If he loses half a strand of hair, don't blame me for being ruthless. From afar, Yao Lao shouted at the purple-robed figure that was about to disappear. As soon as he said this, everyone saw that the purple-robed figure flying in the air swayed violently, as if he had the urge to fall. F***CK. It turned out that the more powerful person in the senior martial brother Yao Lao was the guard of the medicine tower. As Qin Hao disappeared, the disciples in the arena square shook their heads and dispersed. Today was indeed a joyous day. He Kuei was scared to his knees and was exposed as a bandit. The 7th-ranked Mount Ibaraki was directly killed by Qin Hao. Even the 4th-ranked Kongshan was not a match for Qin Hao's sword. The rise of Qin Hao had already become an indisputable fact. After all, he still had the sacred medicine that Yao Lao had gifted him. It was only a matter of time before he became the #1 disciple in the outer yard. At the same time, far away, on the roof of an extremely tall wooden building, 3 figures stood tall and straight like swords as they watched the purple-robed figure take Qin Hao away. Their eyes were filled with respect. These were 3 young men, all of them had imposing appearances and extraordinary temperaments. If there were any disciples present, they would have screamed out in shock. This was because they were the top 3 seniors in the outer yard. All of them were invincible legends. It turned out that the 3 seniors were also secretly watching Qin Hao's match. The one on the left wearing green clothes was the 3rd in the outer yard, Spear Saint Lao Yuanliang. The one on the right wearing yellow clothes was the 2nd in the Earth leaderboard, Saber Saint Marulong. The one in the middle wearing purple clothes was the well-deserved #1 in the outer yard. He was also the strongest in the outer yard, Sword Saint Lin Feng. However, his #1 position was probably going to be changed. In fact, Saber Saint Marulong had already opened his mouth and sighed, "Lin Feng, I'm afraid you won't be able to hold on to your #1 position." Lin Feng smiled bitterly. How could he not know? Just based on the Saint Violet Orchid that Yao Lao had gifted to Qin Hao, the #1 legend in the outer yard would definitely become Qin Hao in less than a month. I have to hold on even if I can't. Junior Qin Hao is indeed extraordinary. He is deeply loved by Elder Yun and has the support of Yao Lao. However, I, Lin Feng, will never admit defeat so easily. A ball of battle intent ignited in Lin Feng's eyes as he secretly clenched his fists. The jade sword on his back also faintly let out an excited cry as if it was looking forward to the battle between its owner and Qin Hao. Lin Feng had also awakened his own sword realm a few days ago. It was called Sword Bladestorm. He didn't think that his Sword Bladestorm would lose to Qin Hao's Raging Fire Sword realm. I think the 2 of you are overthinking. That Kongshan Jun is arrogant and spread rumors everywhere. He wants to compete with us in every aspect. However, how can an egomaniac like him be compared to the 3 of us? In my eyes, Kongshan Jun is like trash. Moreover, Qin Hao is only a 7-star Yuan ancestor now. He can't even withstand a single blow. If he fights with me, I will poke hundreds of holes in his body and teach him how to respect his seniors. On the contrary, Spear Saint Lao Yuanliang was full of disdain for Qin Hao. He even secretly stroked the long spear on his back, as if the long spear was already unable to endure the thirst and couldn't help but want to drink Qin Hao's blood. Lin Feng and Ma Rulong looked at Lao Yuanliang as if they were looking at an idiot. With a cold snort, they disappeared in a flash. Kongshan Jun was usually arrogant, but he did have the capital to be arrogant. He had awakened a sword realm that even Ma Rulong couldn't do. Moreover, Kongshan Jun wasn't an ordinary 9-star Yuan ancestor. If he was mediocre, why would the elders of the inner court take a fancy to him? Kongshan Jun's true strength was probably not much weaker than a 1-star mortal saint. However, he had been easily killed by Qin Hao as if he were slaughtering a chicken. Even Lin Feng didn't see clearly how Qin Hao had attacked with his sword. Spear Saint Lao Yuanliang was only a 1-star mortal saint. Qin Hao probably had the qualifications to fight with Lao Yuanliang given his current strength as a 7-star Yuan ancestor, let alone when he became a sage. Moreover, the person who would emerge victorious in the end would most likely be Qin Hao. This was Lin Feng's and Ma Rulong's true thoughts. Two cowards. Both of you are trash. Lao Yuanliang was extremely dissatisfied with Lin Feng and Ma Rulong's performance. He spat and looked in the direction where Qin Hao had disappeared. Qin Hao? I will let you know the difference between you and me. Naransu can only belong to me, Lao Yuanliang. Just wait for your death. After speaking, Lao Yuanliang looked at Naransu, who was in the crowd below. When he saw the beautiful figure, his entire heart melted. He had pursued Naransu many times but was rejected every time. But the gaze that Nailan Zhu looked at Qin Hao today was actually filled with admiration. This made Lao Yuanliang very unhappy. This unhappiness would soon turn into action. He had to let Naransu understand who was more outstanding between him and Qin Hao. Who was more qualified to win Naransu's heart. Plop! In the sky, Qin Hao felt his body lighten and fell to the ground. Fortunately, he reacted quickly and supported himself with both hands in the nick of time to prevent his face from sticking to the mud. Otherwise, he would really make a fool of himself. At this moment, he patted his clothes and looked angrily at the purple-robed old man opposite him. The purple-robed old man was too uncivilized. He grabbed him for no reason and threw him to the ground. Then, he sat down on a rock. He even closed his eyes. Chapter 331. Chapter 331 A Handsome Reward. Tempering one's body and meridians, gathering and condensing one's aura, gathering one's aura in a master's aura, controlling one's aura in a master's aura. A 7-star master doesn't even know how to control one's aura. I really don't know how you manage to reach the level of a master's origin. The purple-robed elder spoke softly. His eyes were closed as he sat cross-legged on the rock. There was a hint of coldness in his voice. Qin Hao could naturally tell that the other party was mocking him. After reaching the origin ancestor realm, Yuan practitioners would have the ability to fly for a short period of time. However, there was still a limit to how far an origin ancestor could fly. Rather than calling it flight, it would be more accurate to call it a levitation technique. If one wanted to truly achieve long-distance flight, they would have to be at least a saint. But no matter what, the purple-robed old man was complaining about Qin Hao's inability to fly. Our 7-star origin sex strength is indeed nothing much, but we beat the Scarlet Sun outer sex disciples into submission and defeated the 4th on the Earth leaderboard in the arena. Qin Hao replied. How dare you? Ouyang Hong was furious. His eyes suddenly opened and lightning flashed in his dignified pupils. Qin Hao, how dare you? You've only been here for 10 days and you've already stirred up the entire outer yard. I was wondering why the weapons in the weapon pavilion were selling so fast recently. It turns out that you've taken away other people's treasures. You've even used Yao Lao's name to swindle people and sell medicine everywhere. Do you know what you've done? Although Ouyang Hong was cultivating in the cave, his consciousness was constantly spying on the outer court. Naturally, he knew about Qin Hao's shady business in the medicine tower and the battle zone. Firstly, I didn't provoke them. The weapons were given to me by them willingly. Secondly, Yao Lao has personally proven that he was the one who ordered me to sell the medicine. What's more, I'm not selling fake medicine, so how am I swindling people? If you want to be like Ouyang Hua and accuse me of a crime, you don't have to find so many excuses. If you want to condemn someone, you can always find a pretext. Qin Hao smiled faintly. He wasn't afraid of the purple-robed old man at all. He continued, but I'll say the ugly words first. Yao Lao and I have an agreement. If I lose even half a hair, haha, then I'm really sorry. The outer court won't be in a complete mess. It's very likely that the heavens and the earth will collapse. Little bastard. Ouyang Hong angrily laughed and scolded. He shook his head and said, forget it. With Yao Lao backing you up, I can't do anything to you. I don't know what kind of incense your ancestor burned to make my eldest senior brother think so highly of you. He hasn't been as happy as he is today for several decades. If you have time, go to the medicine tower more often to chat with him. If you beg me, I might go if I'm in a good mood. Qin Hao folded his arms and said with a grin. Don't be rude. Ouyang Hong's old face collapsed. He put on a dignified appearance, and then shook his head as if he couldn't scare Qin Hao. He clenched his hand into a fist and covered his mouth with his white beard. He coughed twice and was ready to reveal his identity. You little brat are lawless. Do you know who the old man is? What? Do you also want to make a bet with me? Qin Hao smiled playfully. Ouyang Hong felt a chill in his heart. He rolled his eyes and shook his head. The old man won't be fooled by you. I don't have any treasures to give you. To tell you the truth, I'm the dean of the outer yard. Sigh, you really don't have the gut. You're far from Yao Lao. Qin Hao sighed. He wanted to blackmail the old man, but the old man didn't give him the chance. Wearing a purple robe, Heavenly Saint Tier cultivation base, slapping the vice dean 3 times, but Ouyang Hua didn't dare to say anything. I saw the other elders looking at you with respect. In fact, I already guessed that you're the dean. I don't have much time. I need to go back and cultivate. Did you bring me out to give me the mandate book? Hurry up and take it out. Qin Hao reached out his hand to Ouyang Hong. I know that you've obtained the 9 sections mark in the forest assessment. However, I can't give you the mandate book. Ouyang Hong knew that Qin Hao had been stripped of his core disciple position. It was because of this that he ruthlessly slapped Ouyang Hua 3 times. His sworn brother was too inconsiderate. However, he still couldn't give the mandate book to Qin Hao. Qin Hao couldn't help but frown. Don't be anxious. Listen to me slowly. It's easy to enter the inner courtyard, but once you enter, luck and danger coexist. With your current cultivation base, other than being bullied, you won't be able to do anything. Ouyang Hua analyzed. Qin Hao's strength was still too low. In the inner courtyard, he would undoubtedly be at the bottom. Not to mention Qin Hao, even the current number 1 in the outer courtyard, Sword Saint Lin Feng, wouldn't be able to do anything. Once he entered the inner courtyard, he would inevitably become the target of the inner courtyard's disciples. Instead of running to the inner courtyard to suffer, he might as well slowly accumulate strength in the outer courtyard. The outer courtyard had Yuning Chang and Yao Lao supporting Qin Hao. However, who was in the inner courtyard? Half a month later, the Earth ranking will be re-ranked. After the ranking competition, the 4 Great Academies' new star competition will begin. At that time, the outer courtyard geniuses from Mad Dragon Academy, Starmoon Academy, and Shifu Academy will gather at Luotian platform. I'm ashamed to say that ever since the president disappeared, Qiyang University's reputation has gradually declined. Even in the 4 Great Academies' new star competition, we've always been at the bottom. That's not important, but I heard that you have friends in the other 3 academies, as well as an enemy. If you take first place on the Earth leaderboard and replace Qiyang in the battle, and as long as you enter the top 10 in the Rising Star competition, I will obediently hand over the letter of appointment to you. I'm sure that at that time, with your cultivation base, you won't be bullied in the inner courtyard. What do you think?" Ouyang Hong spoke very sincerely. His gaze seemed to be begging Qin Hao. Ever since Qin Hao came to the outer courtyard, Ouyang Hong had been secretly paying attention to his actions. He realized that Qin Hao had many redeeming qualities. He was indeed a rare seedling. If Qin Hao represented the outer courtyard in the new star competition, it would undoubtedly greatly improve Qiyang University's ranking. Of course, he didn't expect Qin Hao to take first place. However, at the very least, he wouldn't let Qiyang University fall to the bottom again. However, if Qin Hao went to the inner courtyard now, he would miss the opportunity to enter the new star competition. Ouyang Hong would then lack a strong fighting force. "All right, I promise you." After thinking for a while, Qin Hao nodded and accepted. Indeed, to him, entering the inner courtyard was not an honor, but a torture. The inner courtyard disciples' cultivation bases were all above the sage level. If Qin Hao couldn't even be first in the outer courtyard, how could he have the ability to establish himself in the inner courtyard? Moreover, he really missed Xiaogua and Chen Wanqin. Qin Hao had to participate in the new star competition because he had to kill Wang Gui to prevent future troubles. "But you can't let me be your fighter for free, right? Vice Dean Ouyang has been slapped 3 times by you. Maybe he won't suppress me anymore, but that Wang Dajuan is like a mad dog. Who knows when he'll jump up and bite me?" Qin Hao chuckled. What he meant was that he could participate in the competition, but as the dean, he had to give him some benefits, right? "You brat." Ouyang Hong had no choice but to take out a golden feather from his arms. After staring at it for a long time, Ouyang Hong infused a stream of primordial qi into the feather. He raised his hand and threw it into Qin Hao's hand. He said solemnly, "This is my feather. With this feather, you can walk anywhere in the outer courtyard, learn some advanced techniques, or borrow some divine soldier's sharp blade. I've inserted a holy qi shield into the feather. It can block any attack below the profound saint realm and save your life in a critical moment. In addition, I'll restore your status as a core disciple and give you 88 Xian crystals every month. If you enter the top 10 of the new star competition, I'll give you a generous reward." "A generous reward? How generous is it?" Qin Hao happily accepted the palace feather, and his eyes lit up again. "You'll know when the time comes." Chapter 332. Chapter 332 Status Quo of Melody and Wanqin. The moment he and Qin Hao looked at each other, the two of them smiled tacitly at the same time. Ouyang Hong immediately straightened his posture. He realized that his current image was very indecent and lacking in propriety. He pretended to be dignified and solemnly said, "You can't be careless. According to what old man knows, that little brother of yours who entered the Wild Dragon Academy is not simple. He has the Herculean bull demon body and has become the disciple of the Wild Dragon Academy's great elder. His current strength is at the peak of the 9-star sky origin ancestor, which is even stronger than you. In addition to the power of his bloodline, he has already taken down the 3rd place of the Earth ranking in the Wild Dragon Academy's outer court, becoming the strongest dark horse among the new disciples. There's also the little girl from the same sect as you. Her name is Chen Wanqin, right? He had a 1,000-year ice spirit body, and his ice arts were extraordinary. He had been taken in as the last disciple of the Star Moon Outer Court's vice-headmaster. He was currently a 1-star mortal saint and ranked 4th on the Earth ranking. She was one of the most popular girls in the Outer Court. Even the number 1 student on the Earth board was madly pursuing her. That person was the grandson of the principal of Star Moon Academy. Not only is he powerful, but his status is also extraordinary. In order to provoke Qin Hao, Ouyang Hong recounted Xiaogua and Chen Wanqin's current situation and strength. Noticing the change in Qin Hao's expression, Ouyang Hong paused briefly before continuing. What's even more shocking is that there's a guy called Wang Gui who has reached major completion in the Black Tortoise Divine Art and was accepted as a personal disciple by the Principal of 10 Directions Institute. His current strength is a 3-star mortal saint, ranked 2nd on the Earth list. This person seems to have a grudge against you? Then you have to be careful. If you meet him in the Rising Star competition, you must run away with your pants between your legs because you won't be able to withstand a single blow from him. That's impossible. Qin Hao let out a thunderous roar as his aura surged out. His chest began to rise and fall as he muttered to himself like a roaming dragon. The performance of Guadi and Wan Qin really made Qin Hao happy and proud. Even if the two of them were stronger than Qin Hao, he would still give them his sincere blessings. However, this Wang Gui had made an appointment with Qin Hao. He had threatened to kill Qin Hao in the 4 Great Academies' new star competition. At the same time, Qin Hao also wanted to kill him. The two of them would not rest until one of them was dead. There was no way to mediate. It was impossible for Qin Hao to admit defeat to Wang Gui. You don't have to provoke me on purpose. I won't admit defeat so easily. A month later, right? Keep your eyes open and see. I still have something to do, so I'll go chat with Yao Lao first. Qin Hao turned around and left. He knew that Ouyang Hong was deliberately trying to goad him, but at this moment, the pressure on him was multiplied. Defeating Lord Kongshan was indeed nothing to be happy about. In comparison, even the current number 1 in the outer court, Lin Feng, was not Wang Gui's opponent. Becoming stronger was a top priority. Old man, I'll send you off. Sigh, little guy who doesn't know Imperial Sky Technique, I'm looking forward to your performance in the Rising Star competition. Ouyang Hong nodded. Qin Hao's fighting spirit was successfully aroused. With a flick of his sleeve, a gust of wind swept Qin Hao up and landed in the outer court's medicine tower. A person who could catch Yao Lao's eye should not disappoint. However, at this moment, Ouyang Hong's eyes were gloomy and uncertain, faintly showing anger. His sworn brother Ouyang Hua suppressed Qin Hao for Yuan Huai. It was understandable. However, why was Wang Dajuan obstructing him and fanning the flames everywhere? His intention to target Qin Hao was very obvious. Ouyang Hong faintly felt that Wang Dajuan had some ulterior motives. As a low-level elder of the outer court, Wang Dajuan was someone who had high standards but low abilities. He was someone who was not satisfied with half of the bottle. Although he was usually dissatisfied with his identity, he was still considered to know his place. Now, his actions were becoming more and more sinister. Could it be, or was he instructed by someone? Ouyang Hong temporarily threw away this speculation. There were more important things to do now. He quickly stood up from the stone. The brilliance on his body flashed and disappeared again. When he reappeared, he was already in an extremely remote and dark forest. In the forest, a figure was waiting for him. This figure was wearing a veil that covered her face. Her figure was graceful and graceful. Although he could not see her face clearly, he could guess that she was a middle-aged woman based on her figure. "Greetings, my lord." Ouyang Hong bowed respectfully. The woman snorted lightly. Her back was facing Ouyang Hong. There was no joy in her voice, but it was very clear. "Have you done the thing I asked you to do?" "It's done. I've investigated Qin Hao's identity. He comes from a weak family in the remote Jiang country. Moreover, I also came forward to beat up Hua Di and admitted Qin Hao's identity as a core disciple. Now, no one in the outer yard dares to provoke him. He can get whatever he wants. I even gave him the palace feather." Ouyang Hong hurriedly replied with a smile. He thought that the milord would be very satisfied this time. "What did you say?" the woman shouted. The moment she turned around, an aura mixed with anger rushed towards him. Her anger was so fierce that it made Ouyang Hong tremble. He did not receive a round of praise. Instead, he received the other party's anger. Ouyang Hong's face changed greatly. He quickly replied, "Didn't Milord ask me to take care of Qin Hao? You stupid!" The woman was so angry that she laughed. She stretched out her finger and pointed at Ouyang Hong's old face. "Who asked you to take care of him? At that time, I said to ask you to deal with Qin Hao's matter." In consideration of her identity, the woman wanted Ouyang Hong to secretly deal with Qin Hao without anyone knowing. Unexpectedly, Ouyang Hong misunderstood. "This. I am helping Qin Hao to deal with it. When others are trying to suppress him, I will stand up for him. If he can't get the letter of appointment, I will write it for him personally. Isn't that enough? Could it be that Milord didn't mean that?" Ouyang Hong's face was bitter and he looked confused. "Why am I being scolded for doing a good thing? You? Really no one else? I am starting to doubt myself. Was it right or wrong to leave the position of the outer yard dean to you?" The woman was so angry that she was speechless. Ouyang Hong immediately came to his senses. His old face twisted into a ball. "You can't blame me for this. You didn't make it clear at that time. Moreover, why do you want to get rid of Qin Hao? This kid is quite good. He is deeply liked by Yao Lao." "What did you say? Qin Hao is deeply liked by Yao Lao?" The woman was shocked. "Yes." Ouyang Hong nodded. "Not only that, little Inchang also recognized Qin Hao as her brother." "What? Our little Inchang recognized him as her brother?" The woman was even more shocked. If she took off her veil, she would be able to see that her eyes were wide open and her mouth was wide open. "It seems that I am right. Qin Hao must be a spy sent by Daqin. This kid is really scheming. He found a small family in the remote Jiang kingdom to be his backer. But he can't fool my eyes. He must have sensed the existence of the New Moon faction if he wants to get close to our little Inchang." Qin Hao and Yuning Chang were so close, which confirmed the woman's guess. Yuning Chang was the next leader of the New Moon faction. "This kid can't be left alive. Go and deal with him tonight," the woman ordered. It couldn't be delayed any longer. She would rather kill 1,000 by mistake than let go of one. But Ouyang Hong wanted to say something but hesitated. In the end, he clenched his teeth and said, "But young master still acknowledged him as his boss. Killing Qin Hao is no different from going against young master. My lord, the gains do not make up for the losses." Boom. The woman seemed to have been struck by lightning. Her body shook a few times and she almost couldn't stand still. "So what I heard that day was not false. Shui Han really recognized Qin Hao as her brother?" the woman asked again. "Yes." Chapter 333. Businesses in High Feizi. Qin Hao is now living with young master, and they seem to be sticking together every day. How can we make a move? Who dares to make a move? I'm still begging him to represent the academy and enter the new star competition. Ever since you disappeared, we've been getting worse and worse. I say, Chief Dean, you don't have to hide anymore. We've already found the young lord. Hurry up and show yourself. Go intimidate those old fogies from 10 Directions Academy and Wild Dragon Academy. Let them see Grandma Asmanthus's methods. Those old bastards from the 10 Directions Academy are really useless, trying to take over our Medicine Valley. Damn their ancestors, if it wasn't for the fact that I can't beat them, I'd throw their president into a sack tonight, chop him up and feed him to the dogs. Shut up. The woman interrupted Ouyang Hong and hurriedly looked around. Although she had already set up a barrier, she was still worried. After sensing that there was no one within a radius of 100 miles, he heaved a sigh of relief. Immediately, the anger in her heart surged. Her jade-like finger quickly pointed at Ouyang Hong's nose. "Look at you. You usually look quite smart and capable. But at the critical moment you drop the ball and talk a lot of nonsense. You even gave the palace jade to Qin Hao. Why don't you just die? Yang Hong's face was full of shame after being scolded. He felt wronged. Then, should we kill Qin Hao or keep him alive? Let him go for now. We'll talk about it after we win the Rising Star competition. When he's useless, we can just drown him in the gutter. For now, we'll help him as much as we can. At this point, the woman could only acquiesce to Yang Hong's actions. She had yet to reunite with Yi Shuihan. If she killed Qin Hao now, it would undoubtedly make it more difficult for her to reunite with her son. Her son might even turn against her and become her enemy. Qin Hao was quite capable. She won the favor of Yao Lao, acknowledged little Ying Chang as her sister, and even became Yi Shuihan's boss. At this moment, the woman couldn't help but admire Qin Hao. However, he shouldn't have become a spy for Daqin, shouldn't have traveled thousands of miles from the East Continent to Western Liang, and shouldn't have made an enemy of his honor 600 years ago. Thinking to hear, the woman's heart suddenly skipped a beat. Qin Hao? His honor, who was rumored to have died 600 years ago? His honor? It's truly fate. However, how could Scarlet Sun Academy's Qin Hao be compared to his honor? His honor opened up the great Qin Empire, swept through the 6 directions, and flattened the 8 desolates. Scarlet Sun Academy's Qin Hao was just a brat, a piece of trash. He waved his hand and told Yang Hong to scram. Yang Hong was also an uncivilized idiot. After there was no one around, the woman slowly took off the veil on her head, revealing a beautiful face. Although she was already 40 years old, there were no traces of age on her face. Her skin was so delicate that it could be broken by a gentle breeze. Perhaps, even girls who were 18 or 19 years old would feel inferior to her. The only difference was that there was a mature charm between her eyebrows. Taking out a bronze mirror, she carefully looked at her face and praised, "My face is really tender. Who said that I'm old? Who said that I'm ugly? Am I ugly? Yi Long Yuan, that son of a bitch, can kneel under my skirt? If I'm ugly, can I give birth to such a handsome and elegant son like Shuihan? Bah! It's all because I inherited Yi Long Yuan's nature that I can't control myself and secretly look at other girls' butts, tsk. After repeatedly praising, the woman wiped her palm and suddenly, her beautiful face turned into a wrinkled old woman. Her body swayed and disappeared into the mysterious forest. She was Lao Ganma, the woman who sold pancakes opposite the entrance of Qiyang University. She was also the president of Qiyang University who had disappeared for 20 years. Currently, she was only worried about one thing. Qin Hao, the spy, had finally found out about the existence of New Moon faction. Qin Hao, you have to die. After returning to the outer court, Qin Hao spent a few days in the medical tower. In order to repay Yao Lao's kindness of giving him the Saint Violet Orchid, he talked non-stop and talked with him day and night. As they chatted, the two of them started talking about medicinal herbs and medicinal pills. The conversation did not seem to be important, but it shocked Yao Lao. Qin Hao's knowledge of medicinal herbs and his theory of alchemy were really amazing. He even suspected that Qin Hao was a king of medicine who had hidden his true strength. However, Yao Lao was also a proud person. He would not admit defeat. He just had to pick bones from an egg, making things difficult for Qin Hao at every turn, giving him tricky problems. However, these were not difficult for Dendi. Qin Hao solved them one by one. Old Yao felt that he had lost face and became furious. He spat out saliva and quarreled with Qin Hao. In the end, he couldn't win the argument and slapped Qin Hao's butt, sending him flying. Only then did he close the door of the medicine tower with a red face. As for Qin Hao, he had finally repaid Yao Lao's kindness. According to the agreement with Yang Hong, Qin Hao first had to win the Earth Roll ranking competition half a month later. It was not too difficult to defeat Lin Feng and win the first place. Qin Hao had a sage herb. He was just short of the 7-star yuan zone to break through to the sage level. He nodded and decided to go out. Because he had no money, he had to go out and borrow some money so that he could enter the sage level as soon as possible. The place to borrow money was, of course, the Chamber of Commerce in Hefei. To be honest, Qin Hao had not had the time to have a good time after coming to Luoshui's imperial city. Luoshui's imperial city was very large. A city was comparable to a small country. The most dazzling place was, of course, the imperial palace. In addition, the 4 great academies were like 4 sacred dragons, guarding the 4 corners of Luoshui's imperial city. The city was also very prosperous. It was dozens of times more prosperous than the Jiang country's Heaven's Wall city. Qin Hao walked all the way to the High Chamber of Commerce. In Luoshui's imperial city, one could not set up a chamber of commerce without an extremely high status. At most, one could set up a small chamber of commerce. Even if Hefei was an important member of the Chamber of Commerce, it only had this much weight. This was enough to be proud of. For safety's sake, Qin Hao also brought Yi Shuihan with him. Yi Shuihan was a local and was very familiar with Luoshui's imperial city. Naturally, he led Qin Hao to the place with ease. Looking up, 4 big golden words were shining. High Chamber of Commerce. Under the sunlight, the golden words were even more dazzling. It showed Haidafu's ability and status in Luoshui's imperial city. The Chamber of Commerce did all kinds of business, but its main source of income was closely related to cultivators. For example, it sold some Xian beasts' internal elixirs, some elixirs, and so on. Inside, there was also an endless stream of customers. Business was booming. Stop! Before they even entered the door, a person blocked Qin Hao and Yi Shuihan's way. He stretched out his hand and raised his chin high, looking like a cunning businessman. He smiled and said, "According to the rules, hand it over." Qin Hao was stunned. Standing at the bottom of the stone steps, he looked up and sized up this person. This person was wearing the clothes of the Chamber of Commerce, with the word "High" embroidered on his chest. An iron bell was tied to his waist. Without a doubt, this was the worst first-class servant in the High Chamber of Commerce. It seemed that he wanted to ask Qin Hao for some entrance fee or something. This caused Qin Hao's brows to furrow. Not to mention that he had the golden waist token that symbolized Hefei's identity. There were so many customers coming and going, why did he block him? And he wanted to ask for money? This was really a blind servant. Chapter 334. Chapter 334. Zurab shunned. When Yi Shuihan saw this, he was about to step forward and reprimand him. Suddenly, there was a movement behind him. The servant with the iron bell in front of him instantly ignored Qin Hao and withdrew his hand. He beamed with joy and greeted Qin Hao respectfully. Qin Hao was curious and turned around at the same time. A group of people walked over, each of them wearing gold and jade, wearing luxurious clothes, and holding a beautiful little girl in their arms. This group of people raised their heads and puffed out their chests, looking very arrogant. Scram! The first person shouted at Qin Hao with contempt. Qin Hao blocked his path. "Welcome, Lord Maliu. Greetings to Master Lu. Oh my, third Master Tian has also come. Your presence brings light to our humble dwelling of the High Family Trading Company." The gatekeeper bowed and bowed as he led them into the hall. Behind them were some other young cultivators. As he spoke, the gatekeeper also welcomed the cultivators into the hall. His attitude was also very humble. Qin Hao frowned slightly. It was one thing for the gatekeeper to flatter that group of Uncle Ma, Master Lu, and Master Tian, but the group of young cultivators just now were also wearing the academy's uniform. Qin Hao looked at Yi Shuihan and then at himself. Both of them were wearing Qiyang University's student uniforms. This was a little strange. Originally, Qin Hao thought that the gatekeeper despised them because they were disciples of the academy. But now it seemed that this was not the case. Presumably, the person he despised was Qiangbin. But Qin Hao couldn't be bothered with him, and stepped onto the stone steps again. "Stop, did I allow you to enter?" The gatekeeper raised his arm and blocked Qin Hao outside the door for the second time. He stretched out his hand and smiled. "Give it to me. You snobbish donkey!" Yi Shuihan was furious. He clenched his fists and was about to step forward to hit him. Qin Hao grabbed Yi Shuihan's hand and looked coldly at the servant blocking his way. "Give me a reason. Why? Why?" The gatekeeper was stunned for a moment before his face was filled with impatience. He explained lazily, "Why don't you take a piss and look at your own faces? Is the High Clan Trading Company a place where Qiyang Academy's students should come? We're all students from the 4 great academies of the Imperial City. Why can students from the Mad Dragon Academy and Shifang Academy enter, but we, the Scarlet Sun Academy, can't?" Qin Hao said seriously. When the gatekeeper heard this, he became even more impatient. "If I don't let you in, then I won't let you in. A bunch of trash students. You have no money and no strength. Why are you putting on airs in front of me? What nonsense are you spouting?" At this point, he pointed to the wide road opposite the trading company. "Do you see that? The beggar who sold his body to bury his father was dirty, smelly, and lowly. In my eyes, you students from Qiyang University are no better than beggars. You're the last in the Rising Star competition every year. How can you compare with the outstanding students from the other 3 academies? You 2 little bastards. Give me some money, and I'll let you enter the trading company to broaden your horizons and broaden your horizons. When you go back, you'll have something to brag about in front of your junior brothers. It's fine if you're not grateful to me, but how dare you talk back to me? If you don't have money, then get lost." The gatekeeper waved his hand at Qin Hao and even spat at the beggar who was kneeling by the roadside. His face was full of disdain. When these words came out, Yi Shuihan's face twisted fiercely. Qiyang Academy's students were like lowly beggars? Anger instantly rushed to the top of his head. Qin Hao sneered. These snobbish fellows despised students because they had no money. They couldn't compare to those bosses who did business. In the gatekeeper's eyes, Qin Hao and Yi Shuihan didn't come to the High Trading Company to buy things. Their real purpose was to sneak in and see the scene. If the trading company couldn't make money, why would they let useless people in? Besides, Qiyang University was the lowest ranked of the 4 academies. He turned his head and glanced at the beggar by the roadside. The beggar had messy hair and a thin body. He was shivering in the wind and looked very cold. Judging from his body, he wasn't old, about 14 or 15 years old. He was kneeling on the ground. Behind him, a corpse was lying on the ground, covered by grass. Qin Hao shook his head. Were Qiyang Academy's students like this beggar? Qin Hao raised his hand and threw 3 crystal shards at the gatekeeper. He didn't want to cause trouble, so he pulled Yi Shuihan, who was full of anger and prepared to go in. "Stop right there." It was fine if Qin Hao didn't pay, but he threw 3 shards at the gatekeeper. He was furious. He gnashed his teeth and pointed at Qin Hao's nose. 3 shards? Are you trying to dismiss a beggar? Are you looking down on me? Son of AB***, TC. I'll cripple you. Yi Shuihan's anger was suppressed to the extreme. His boss had already given him money, but this person still thought it was too little. He was just a weak 2-star Yuan master and a gatekeeper. Yi Shuihan wanted to beat him to death. However, he was stopped by Qin Hao again. He threw 3 more shards at the gatekeeper and said, "You ate so much. Be careful not to puke." After saying this coldly, Qin Hao pulled Yi Shuihan into the hall of the trading company. This time, the gatekeeper didn't stop them. However, a sarcastic voice came from behind Qin Hao. 2 poor students. Even if I eat a lot, being a gatekeeper is still better than you two trash outer yard disciples. 1 crystal a month. Why are you here pretending to be rich? Creak. Yi Shuihan clenched his fist. He looked back with red eyes and glared at the gatekeeper. He would remember this and see how he would deal with this person. They stepped into the hall. The interior of the trading company was very spacious. It was divided into several purchasing areas. Cultivators would visit the elixir material area, inner elixir area, and weapons area. There were also the cloth area, jewelry area, jade area, and so on for ordinary merchants. The trading company had a wide range of goods. It had a dazzling lineup. This is indeed Dafu's business. Qin Hao nodded and felt very proud. Based on the volume of the trading company, it shouldn't be a problem to borrow tens of thousands of crystals. Qin Hao was about to ask the manager at the front desk if the president of the trading company was here. At this moment, a middle-aged man with a donkey face walked up first. This person was the Lord Maliu at the door. He asked, "Is President Hai here?" The president of the Hai Trading Company must be Hai Dafu's trusted aide. Although Hai Dafu wasn't here personally. However, everyone knew that the president of this branch in Luoshui's imperial city was called Hai Si. People called him Master Hai Si. Master Hai is meeting an important guest upstairs. Lord Ma, you should wait downstairs for a while. The manager at the front desk replied. Okay. Lord Maliu nodded again and again. At this moment, he no longer had the arrogance of a master on his face. Hai Si's status was very high. He couldn't be compared to Ma. A guest who could be met by Hai Si in person was naturally very honorable. Qin Hao heard and shook his head. It wasn't easy to meet Hai Si. Since he was discussing business, it would be impolite to disturb him at this time. So he decided to wait. Glancing around, Qin Hao's eyes fell on the jade area. Suddenly, a dazzling light greeted him. Qin Hao pulled Yi Shuihan and walked over. He thought, I made Xiao Han unhappy because of a jade hairpin. I can take this opportunity to choose a piece of jade and give it to Wan Qin at the Rising Star competition next month to make it up to her. The guard of the jade area was a young girl with a beautiful face and an excellent figure. With Qin Hao's arrival, the girl who was smiling like a spring breeze suddenly frowned. Her eyes were full of contempt. Chapter 335. Chapter 335. Narcissistic maniac. The girl's good mood plummeted, and her attitude became colder. His heart was filled with resentment. He was really unlucky today to have to receive 2 poor students. Originally, she wanted to increase the sales volume of the jade section so that she could receive a bonus at the end of the month. Qin Hao had undoubtedly destroyed her dream of getting a bonus. How much money could a student have? Qin Hao took Yi Shuihan to walk around the jade area a few times. He touched this and looked at that. He was a little absent-minded. He did have something on his mind. He was considering whether or not he should make a trip to Dan Ji's headquarters after he got the money. Qin Hao had once given Hai Dafu an ancient pill recipe, and an elder by the name of Dan Gu wanted to meet Qin Hao. He had to fulfill his promise with that elder. It was a good opportunity to enter Dan Gu and find out about Mu Chuanfeng's whereabouts to avenge Dan Xian. Are you buying it or not? Don't touch it if you're not buying it. A voice mixed with anger sounded. The girl rushed up and took the jade in Qin Hao's hand. She wiped it a few times and put it back in its original state. She wiped all the jades that Qin Hao had touched and even blew on them. She didn't stop until they were shiny and translucent. It seemed that Qin Hao had dirted her things. Ahem, let's wait and see. Qin Hao gathered his thoughts and cast an apologetic look. He was indeed distracted. He was here to buy jade wares. Qin Hao nodded and picked up a jade hairpin in front of him. The jade hairpin was completely white and made of pure jade. Its appearance was very luxurious, but in reality, other than looking good, it had no other use. It was far inferior to the blue jade hairpin. Shaking his head, Zhang Xian placed it back. He picked up another necklace. The necklace was made of platinum and inlaid with diamonds. The craftsmanship was exquisite and it was quite pleasing to the eye. However, it was still a mortal item. Put it back. Qin Hao picked up a jade bracelet and held it in his hand. He could feel a faint chill coming from it. It had a refreshing effect. The bracelet is barely good, but it's still far worse than the blue jade hairpin. Will Wan Qin say I'm stingy? Shaking his head helplessly, Qin Hao put it back. He picked up a jade ring. After a quick glance, put it back. She picked up a pair of earrings. Put it back. After repeating the process over and over again, he still couldn't find a satisfactory item. The girl next to him stared at him. Was this kid here to buy something or to pick a fight? He didn't even look at it. He picked it up and immediately put it down. Was he deliberately going against me? As Qin Hao touched more and more things, the girl's brows furrowed higher and higher. Finally, her pretty face scrunched up into a ball, as ugly as a witch. As expected, Qin Hao was here to cause trouble. Qin Hao's purpose was not to buy jade, but to attract her attention. The girl thought that she was very beautiful. Many people came here just to talk to her and coax her. For example, Master Ma Lu, Master Tian, and Master Lu were a group of hooligans. Qin Hao was a trash student who couldn't even compare to Ma Lu. He wanted to attract her attention. Moreover, there was a shifty-eyed guy beside him who was secretly peeking at her butt. This peeping maniac was Yi Shuihan. Yi Shuihan's actions confirmed the girl's guess. Qin Hao was actually a shameless person. Enough, you don't have to waste your time in front of me. If you know what's good for you, you eyesore, quickly disappear from my sight. It's annoying to look at you. The girl couldn't bear it anymore and chased Qin Hao away. Qin Hao was absent-minded just now. Now, he was focused on picking jade accessories for Chen Wanqin. He didn't take the girl's words to heart. After thinking for a while, he picked up a jade hairpin and handed it to the girl. Miss, how much is this jade hairpin? Slap. The girl raised her hand and took the jade hairpin and threw it aside. She pointed at Qin Hao's face and cursed. You still don't want to give up? I didn't expose you just now because I wanted to leave you some dignity. You don't know what's good for you. Now, I'm solemnly begging you. Please get out of my sight and don't try to attract my attention. Give up. I won't have a good impression of you. Qin Hao was stunned. Was this girl crazy? I'm purposely swaying in front of her? I'm trying to attract her attention? I want her to have a good impression of me? I've seen narcissistic people, but I've never seen a narcissistic person who's crazy. Qin Hao's face instantly turned cold. He picked up the jade hairpin again. This was the only jewelry that he liked. It was a gift for Wanqin. He handed it back to the girl and said, Miss, please help me register. I'll buy it. Slap. The girl took the jade hairpin back again. This time, she slammed it on the ground and smashed it into pieces in front of Qin Hao. She couldn't stand it anymore. She was going crazy. She roared at Qin Hao with a ferocious face. Little trash, how long are you going to pester me? You're just a student of the Scarlet Sun Academy. You only get 1 Xian crystal a month. You have no power, no money, and you want to hit on me? She was so angry that she laughed. She pointed at the broken jade hairpin on the ground and said, Can you buy it? Do you know how much it's worth? 12 Xian crystals. You can't afford it even if you save for a year. But for me, it's only 3 months of salary. At this point, the girl raised her head with a proud expression. So what if she smashed the jade ornaments in the shop? She could afford it. As long as she could drive away Qin Hao, this shameless fly, she would risk everything. The noise in the jade area immediately attracted a large number of people to come and watch. Among them, there were more than a dozen students from the Wild Dragon Academy and the 10 Directions Academy. The girl's shout just now was very loud, as if she wanted the whole world to see Qin Hao overestimating himself. So, these people all pointed at Qin Hao and roared with laughter. Ha ha! I was wondering who was causing trouble. So it's a rookie from Qiyang University. An ordinary disciple dares to court Miss Yao Chan. You two don't even look at yourselves. No wonder it's two men shopping together. They probably can't win the hearts of their juniors in their own academies. Useless guys like you are still pretending to be good in front of Miss Yao Chan. So they formed a group to be gay. Ha ha ha, it's so funny. Everyone pointed at Qin Hao and Yi Shuihan and laughed without restraint. Their words were full of mockery and ridicule. They also felt that it was unfair for the girl named Yao Chan. Yao Chan felt relieved. The expression on her face became even more arrogant, and she even raised her nose. It was as if she was a beautiful swan and Qin Hao was a toad born in the mud. A toad wants to hug a swan's leg? Dream on. This scene made Yi Shuihan furious. He was originally in a bad mood, but he was blackmailed by the lackeys at the door. Now, he couldn't bear it anymore. On the other hand, Qin Hao was foolishly looking at the broken jade hairpin on the ground. This jade hairpin was not an ordinary jade hairpin. It contained a little bit of cold essence, which was very helpful to those who cultivated ice arts. Even if it was not as good as the blue jade hairpin, it was still very precious. Moreover, its appearance was white and flawless. It also matched Wan Qin's temperament quite well. It would definitely look good on her. This was a gift for a friend that Qin Hao chose carefully. He had never been as serious as he was today. But it was smashed to pieces by the cheap maid in front of him. Creak! Clenching his fists together, Qin Hao slowly raised his head. His black hair fluttered without wind, and his eyes were so cold, revealing a chill. Chapter 336. Two girlfriends, oh my! Are you so anxious that you want to hit someone? We must have hit a sore spot. Two grown men holding hands and strolling around the trading company. How pathetic! What's even more pathetic is that these two are shamefully poor. They want to show off in front of Miss Yao Chan and attract her attention. The crowd was stunned at first, then they pointed at Qin Hao and Yi Shuihan and started discussing again. Between their actions, those with female companions took the opportunity to show off. Aya, my precious baby, do you want these earrings or not? It's worth 3 Xian crystals. Kiss me and I'll buy it for you. Oh my sweetheart, hurry up, this necklace suits you very well. It's worth 5 Xian crystals. I'm an outstanding disciple, I can afford it. Hey, we can't do this. We have no moral bottom line. Aren't we clearly abusing single people in public? Ha ha. They hugged their female companions tightly and looked at Qin Hao and Yi Shuihan with playful eyes. There was a strange color in their eyes. In their eyes, Qin Hao and Yi Shuihan were a pair of lowly gays who couldn't get a girl. Hee. How is it, you two brats? Have you learned something new? So what if you're not convinced? Come and fight. Do you believe that I won't beat the two of you to death? A tall and sturdy disciple, about 2 meters tall and muscular, walked in front of Qin Hao and Yi Shuihan with an imposing aura. His huge shadow loomed over the two of them. His eyes were filled with ferocity and provocation as he glanced at Qin Hao. Creak! The sound of clenching fists rang out. Yi Shuihan and Qin Hao looked at each other, as if asking Qin Hao for permission to beat up these bastards. Qin Hao nodded. His Xian Qi fluctuated and his aura began to rise. It meant that he wanted them to beat them up. I'll bear all the consequences. The two were about to fight. At this time, 2 figures rushed over one after another, blocking Qin Hao and Yi Shuihan. You're not allowed to insult Big Brother Qin Hao. The first one to run over was Nalanli with a face full of anger. Behind her, Naransu shook her head and followed with a trace of embarrassment. They had secretly followed Qin Hao and came here. When the 2 girls appeared, they immediately became the focus. The disciples of Wild Dragon Academy and 10 Directions Academy swallowed their saliva. Those guys who were holding their female companions in their arms couldn't help but let go of their hands. They looked at Nailan Zhu and Nailan Zhu in a daze, as if their souls had been hooked. The beauty in their arms had long been thrown to the back of their minds. Even Yao Chan exclaimed in surprise and hurriedly covered her mouth. She thought she was to be a beauty. But compared to the sisters, she was to Yi Chen Chen, Yi was beauty. One of them was petite and cute, a little lowly. The other had an excellent temperament. She was like a peony among 100 flowers, unforgettable. Faintly, the older sister had the aura of a noble. Yao Chan, a servant girl at the counter, couldn't compare to her. The sudden appearance of the two made Qin Hao unable to react. Sorry, we didn't mean to. We were just passing by. Naransu hurriedly explained. Her face was red. She was obviously lying. Actually, her inner thoughts were that they didn't mean to appear. They appeared on purpose. Junior sister, what's your name? I'm a disciple of Wild Dragon Academy. May I have the honor of inviting you to a cup of tea? This girl looks like an older sister. My name is Li Dakue. This is the first time I met you. I wish to discuss life and ideals with you. May I have the honor your mother. Hurry up and scram to the side. Don't pollute this little sister's eyes. Cough cough. Little sister, call me Wang Dahe. I've been reading books since I was young. I have a good character and never scold people. May I have the honor of discussing life and ideals with you? Immediately, the disciples of Wild Dragon Academy and 10 Directions Academy surrounded them like a swarm of flies. They repeatedly expressed their goodwill to Naransu and Nailanli. Between their words, they showed off their family's influence. They said they were the nephew of King Nanan, the uncle of King Dongping, the nephew of Marquis Pingyang, etc. However, Nailanli didn't care. As for Naransu, she treated them as heir. I feel like old friends at first sight. Alright, I can't help it. I must let you understand my feelings. I want to pursue the two of you. Someone shouted excitedly. He was afraid that Naransu and Nailanli would be snatched away by others. Behind this person, his female companion knelt on the ground with tears streaming down her face. She tugged at his sleeve and said, Senior Marshal brother, didn't we agree that we would only win the heart of one of us and never be separated? Oh, I'm sorry. I want to win their hearts and not be separated. As for you, who are you? Don't pull my sleeve for no reason. I feel very embarrassed. This person said to his female companion coldly and mercilessly. He even kicked her away. The so-called win their hearts, in his words, was naturally the hearts of Nailanli and Naransu. Sorry, I have a boyfriend. I want to marry brother Hao when I grow up. Nailanli was young and had never seen such a crazy scene. She was instantly frightened. These guys in front of her were like a group of teddy bears in heat. It seemed that they would ravage her in their arms at any time. Nailanli hurriedly grabbed Qin Hao's wrist and hid behind him. This scene made Qin Hao not know whether to laugh or cry. In his heart, Nailanli was like his own sister. As you can see, the two of us already have someone we like, don't we? Naransu smiled and made a naughty face. She winked at Qin Hao. Qin Hao was even more helpless. What was this? Sisters of the same mind. Chapter 337. A gift for the little beggar. Yao Chan thought she was very lucky. Fortunately, she wasn't Qin Hao's girlfriend. Fortunately, she didn't have to suffer together with Qin Hao. Come, my precious little darling, I'll give you an earring worth 3 crystals. My little sweetie, I'll also give you a necklace worth 5 crystals. Aya, the two young masters are so generous. I'm so happy to be your girlfriend. Xiaochan is so envious. Yao Chan hurriedly played along with the Wild Dragon Academy and 10 Directions Academy's disciples. She deliberately looked at Qin Hao and deliberately made Qin Hao lose face. She also didn't forget to point at Naransu and Nalanli. She shook her head and said, "You two are so pitiful. You came to our company for nothing and probably didn't get a single gift. Alas, it's your fault for choosing such a useless man." Her words made the Wild Dragon Academy and 10 Directions Academy's disciples feel very proud and superior. The female companions in their arms also proudly waved their earrings and necklaces in front of Nalanli, wantonly showing off. Nalanli was sulking in her heart. She wanted to stand up for Qin Hao, but she was worried that she would make Qin Hao look even worse by choosing the jade ornaments without permission. Qin Hao had just been reinstated as a core disciple, but she didn't know whether he had received the crystals or how much he could receive. Qin Hao smiled. He pinched Nalanli's angry little face, bent down, and whispered a few words in her ear. Then he patted Nalanli's little head. Nalanli's eyes lit up. She nodded and ran out. When the others saw this scene, they despised her even more. Qin Hao probably didn't have the money to buy a gift, so he said some sweet words and coaxed the little loli away. The little loli looked very happy. Alas, so pitiful. Qin Hao, this crafty fellow, is really hateful. But then, the Wild Dragon Academy and 10 Directions Academy's disciples widened their eyes. Nalanli came back again, and she brought another person with her. Beggar. Yao Chan was startled, her brow furrowed in confusion. Nalanli was pulling a dirty figure. This figure had messy hair and looked very weak. His clothes were full of holes and there was a sour smell coming from his body. It was very pungent. At this moment, he was standing in the grand hall of the trading company. In front of him was a large amount of jewelry. It was extremely luxurious. The beggar had never seen such a high-class scene before. He was very nervous and his body trembled slightly. He lowered his head and appeared to be very timid. "Isn't this the trash who sold himself to bury his father? What's that smell? It smells terrible. Hurry up and throw him out for me, blarg." When the disciples of 10 Directions Academy and Violent Dragon Academy saw the beggar that Nalanli brought back, they covered their mouths at the same time. Their faces turned green, and some of them couldn't help but vomit. The smell on the beggar's body was too unpleasant. It was sour and smelly. Yao Chan retreated again and again, as if she was afraid of being stained by the stench. She waved her hand and called for the guards in the hall to kick the beggar out. "Wait, is this how you treat your customers? Isn't that too rude?" Qin Hao tried to stop him. Yao Chan was startled once more. Customers? The beggar was a customer of the High Family Merchant Association? What kind of joke was this? Could it be Qin Hao wanted to buy jade ornaments for the beggar? Was he going to stand up for him? This was impossible. Qin Hao himself was a crafty person, a pauper. He couldn't even afford it himself, but then, the face slapping began. Qin Hao reached out his hand and grabbed a pair of earrings. He stuffed it into the beggar's hand. "For you." Boom. Everyone was shocked like thunder. This Qin Hao actually, you daring guy. You stuffed our jade ornaments into the beggar's hand. What qualifications does he have to wear them? Do you know how expensive they are? Do you know? Yao Chan had already cried out in shock. If the jade ornaments were taken by the stinky beggar, who would dare to want them in the future? Qin Hao directly interrupted her. He raised his hand and threw 3 mysterious crystals. "You what?" "It's just 3 mysterious crystals." The earrings that Qin Hao stuffed into the beggar's mouth were exactly the same as the one that the Wild Dragon Academy's disciple gave to his female companion. Without giving the others time to react, Qin Hao picked up another necklace and hung it around the beggar's neck with a smile on his face. You! How dare you take this lady's necklace? What about you? It's just 5 mysterious crystals. Here you go." Qin Hao threw 5 mysterious crystals to Yao Chan as if she was a beggar. The style of this necklace was exactly the same as the one that the 10 Directions Academy's disciple had hung around his female companion's neck. Qin Hao's actions could be said to have caused a huge uproar. So this guy was rich. And he spat out money like water. No, he treated money like dirt. He hung the High Family Merchant Association's jewelry on the beggar's neck. This scene caused the faces of the Wild Dragon Academy and 10 Directions Academy's disciples to become incomparably ugly. Their faces were twisted into a ball, almost cracking. As for their female companions, they hurriedly threw away the earrings and necklace in their hands in disgust, as if they were stained with feces. Even the beggar was wearing it. How could they wear the same thing as the beggar? In the next second, they looked at their senior brothers with pleading expressions, hoping that their senior brothers would give them something better. Chapter 338. Chapter 338. Securi28 was a girl. You dare to pretend to be rich in front of me? I'll teach you a lesson. Trash from Qiyang University, come and experience Grandpa Shifang's grace. The two of them screamed and yelled, as if they had the urge to chop Qin Hao into pieces. He wanted to punch Qin Hao so that he could kneel down and call him master. This would wash away their shame and raise their status in the hearts of their female companions. Scram! Naransu, who was at the side, waved her small hand, and a burst of blue origin chi surged out. Before the two of them could reach Qin Hao, they were blasted to the ground. Their mouths opened, and they vomited out a puddle of menstruation. Their faces were filled with fear. They were only high-level great masters. Who would have thought that Qin Hao's eldest daughter-in-law was actually a Sky Origin Grandmaster? Moreover, her star rank was not low. She was so beautiful, and her strength was also so high. She was far from being comparable to the female companions behind them. At this moment, the two of them wailed in their hearts. At the same time, Naransu also intimidated the guards at the front. Oh my! You're so anxious that you want to hit me? He must have been provoked to the point of pain. However, you guys are quite pitiful. Your strength is too weak. What's even more tragic is that he's a pauper with no money to spare. Qin Hao shook his head and returned the two's mocking words back to them exactly as they had said them. Don't be so smug. What kind of hero are you if you hide behind a woman? Oh, I understand now. You're a gigolo who lives off a woman. Ha ha. You're riding on a woman's thigh to get to where you are. The two women who fell to the ground did not give up. They pointed at Qin Hao and laughed with their menstruation in their mouth. They looked crazy and ugly. Is that so? Qin Hao's eyes narrowed. His aura fluctuated, and an incomparably strong aura rose from his body. It was also blue yuan qi. Moreover, this aura was so strong that it was even stronger than Naransu's aura. The jade wares on the jade shelves were all shaking involuntarily, as if they would fall and shatter into pieces at any time. This frightened Yao Chan, and she repeatedly shouted for him to stop. If the jade stones in the jade stone area were destroyed by Qin Hao's primordial qi, she wouldn't be able to pay for it even if she sold herself. The two Wild Dragon Academy and 10 Directions Academy disciples lying on the ground were even more terrified. They could clearly sense Qin Hao's power. 7-star Yuan Zone. However, that shocking pressure was even stronger than that of their seniors on the earth roll. There was a faint hint of the might of a saint. Saint level. In the blink of an eye, he could crush them hundreds of times. You're not convinced, are you? Come on, let's fight. Do you believe that I won't beat the two of you to death? He casually threw the 10 Directions Academy disciple to the side and turned to pinch Nalan Li's little face, indicating that the little girl had done well. Nalan Li received Qin Hao's praise and received high marks. Young master, you don't need so many good things to buy me. Just 10 copper coins is enough. At this time, A voice as thin as a mosquito's came. The voice was very soft, but very sweet and very pleasant to the ears. At the same time, there was a trace of sadness in the voice. Qin Hao turned his head. It was the little beggar who shouted. The little beggar still had his head lowered. His pair of small hands grabbed the corner of his clothes uneasily, as if he was very scared. Because of his tattered clothes and small stature, Qin Hao thought that he was a boy at first. However, that was clearly a girl's voice just now, or could it be that she was? Hee. Nalan Li blinked his big watery eyes at Qin Hao and nodded. Raise your head for me to see, Qin Hao said to the little beggar. His tone was very gentle. After all, the little beggar was standing here, and there were people wearing gold and jade everywhere. She was already very scared. At this moment, everyone couldn't help but feel curious. The little beggar struggled twice, and her small hands clenched even tighter. She had followed Nalan Li in because Nalan Li told her that a big brother wanted to buy her and bury her relatives for her. To her, Qin Hao was not only a benefactor, but also a master in the future. She couldn't refuse. Under the struggle, with a trace of timidity, the little beggar slowly raised his head. His messy hair scattered to the side of his forehead, revealing a small and delicate face. Willow eyebrows, small cherry lips, smooth cheeks, and a pair of starry eyes. However, due to fear, this face looked very helpless. His eyes were filled with tears, and he looked a little desolate. Damn! So beautiful! What a beauty! The disciples of the 10 Directions Academy and the Violent Dragon Academy all widened their eyes in shock. They were stunned by the little beggar's appearance. They were also filled with regret. When they came to the trading company, they had already seen a little beggar kneeling by the roadside. At that time, they were all disgusted and couldn't be bothered to take a look. Now, it was actually a little beauty. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.